Chapter 1196. Can I see the weapon that Chen San used before? Chen Zhao took out the broken bronze sword directly. Dongye Tianqi wasn't an ordinary blacksmith. He didn't forge ordinary weapons either, so he wasn't surprised by Chen Zhao's ability to take things out of thin air. Chen San, since this weapon is broken, it doesn't prove that it's better than a Japanese sword. It's broken because it's been through too many battles. West can prove how many enemies I've defeated with this sword. West glanced at Chen Zhao. He didn't know what was so special about the bronze sword. But he knew that Chen Zhao definitely didn't rely on the bronze sword to defeat so many enemies. It was all because of Chen Zhao's personal strength. Even without the bronze sword, Chen Zhao could still use another method to defeat his previous enemies. It's impossible for any weapon to be indestructible forever. Can Mr. Higashino guarantee that the blade you forged will never break? In the past, Dongye Tianqi could confidently say that his sword was invincible and unbreakable. But after being defeated twice by Chen Zhao, Dongye Tianqi really didn't have the courage to say that. Nevertheless, there were indeed densely packed marks on the broken bronze sword. Who knew how many dangerous battles Chen Zhao had been through? This looks like an ancient sword. That's right, this is an ancient sword that has been passed down since the Warring States period. It is my family's treasured sword, and it has experienced countless battles. Mr. Higashino, you can think about it. Over 2,000 years, it has experienced tens of thousands of battles, and it was only recently damaged. Do you think the weapon you forged would be more durable than this bronze sword? Dongye Tianqi sucked in a breath of cold air. He had really believed it. If it was really as Chen Zhao said, then the craftsmanship of the bronze sword had already surpassed his. Moreover, it was a sword made more than 2,000 years ago. Chen San, I take back my words and apologize to you. Dongye Tianqi lowered his head and knelt on the ground, apologizing. Dongye Tianqi was a straightforward person, but Chen Zhao wasn't ashamed of his bragging at all. Winning this battle was something to be proud of. Chen San, I can't make a weapon of the same craftsmanship. I'm sorry. At this moment, Higashino Tengsi was also very depressed. Initially, he wanted to use his skills to prove that Japanese swords were better than Chinese swords. In the end, Chen Zhao slapped them in the face. Moreover, they were slapped in the face by the ancient people from 2,000 years ago. Then come and work for me. While you work for me, you can also train your skills. One day, you will be able to forge a weapon suitable for me. He had no choice. He needed weapons now. Hitting people with fists and slashing people with swords were two completely different combat experiences. What was a weapon? It was an extension of the body. The ancients had a proverb, an inch longer, an inch stronger, and an inch shorter, an inch more dangerous. Weapons gave people a sense of security, especially on the battlefield. If Chen Zhao didn't have a weapon when fighting a powerful enemy, but the enemy had a weapon, the result would be the same. Facing the opponent's attack, Chen Zhao's first reaction was to dodge, regardless of whether it could hurt him. If Chen Zhao had a weapon, he would be much more confident. Because ever since Chen Zhao learned how to fight, the bronze sword had been accompanying him. Chen Zhao needed a weapon not only to increase his combat power, but also to increase his confidence and courage. Especially since there was a huge battle waiting for him in the near future. Even if he had to use a crappy gun to survive, Chen Zhao had to bring Higashino Tengsi with him first. He had to deal with the upcoming battle first. As long as the Japanese didn't have a direct conflict with their bottom line, Chen Zhao could still accept it. After all, Higashino Tengsi had apologized for their past history and attitude at the beginning of their conversation. This was Chen Zhao's bottom line in the subsequent disputes. It was a conflict of ideals. Chen Zhao could accept this kind of conflict. It was like how the Chinese said that China's cooking was the best in the world, but the French didn't accept it. This kind of ideal was harmless. Which country's citizens didn't have a few things to be proud of? There was no need to go to the extent of fighting to the death with such a conflict of ideals. If you said that Japanese swords were awesome, Chen Zhao would slap you in the face. This kind of conflict wouldn't hurt the other country's people, and there would never be an end to it. Today, Chen Zhao had proven that China's swords were awesome, but it might not be the end. Other than Higashino Tengxi's stubbornness in his profession, he was easy to get along with. His family looked like a normal Japanese family. His wife, Riko Odawara, was also full of the virtuousness of Japanese women. To be honest, when Chen Zhao was in university, he'd wanted to find a Japanese woman to spend the rest of his life with. At that time, there was a saying on the internet, Japanese women were the most virtuous and gentle women in the world. At that time, Chen Zhao was also affected by this theory. But then he met his first love. Chen-san, I'm sorry, but I still have the same request. As long as you can help me find the demon sword passed down in my family and subdue the Ghost King, I'll accept your invitation. Okay, Chen Zhao said. I'll do my best to help you find the demon sword. Mr. Higashino, do you have any clues? West asked. Because the Ghost King is sealed in the demon sword, it has the ability to confuse people. The Ghost King's demonic aura will also spread from the sword to the user, causing the user to be filled with demonic aura. At the same time, the user will show signs of demonization. Other than that, if the demon sword kills the 9 couples, the seal on the Ghost King will be completely undone. By then, the user will completely become a demon and become the host of the Ghost King. Are there any more clues? Oh, the user of the demon sword will become disgusted. He won't go out during the day and will only come out at night. Since the user of the demon sword will be controlled, isn't it easy to unseal the seal? It's not complete control. Unless the user is a violent and bloodthirsty person, there's still a basic moral bottom line. The demon sword will keep bewitching the user. The first to be killed will most likely be the person who has a grudge against the user. West's heart jumped. So the first victim might be related to the user of the demon sword. It's very likely. Mr. Higashino, look at these photos. Chapter 1197. Hi, Chen. An unfamiliar number called Chen Zhao, but the voice was familiar. It was the female pirate, Gurette. Gurette, what's up? I remember you told me that Nanchi Island won't surface until mid-March, right? I'm not asking you to leave now. The news about Nanchi Island has been leaked. I know that a few forces have entered the island's waters. Who are they? Pirates and mercenaries. Are you worried that someone will get there first? No, I'm not worried. I just feel that the news is very strange, Gurette said. It seems like someone is spreading the news on purpose. Anyway, it's not me. You're not suspecting me of spreading the news, are you? Of course I don't believe it's you. On one hand, it was because of Chen Zhao's credibility. On the other hand, Chen Zhao had no motive to leak the news. Didn't you say that there's a naval fleet patrolling that area? Can those pirates and mercenaries get close to that area? In Chen Zhao and Gurette's plan, they had chosen to set off after mid-March to avoid the naval fleet's patrols. Gurette was an experienced pirate. If she had to do this, the other pirates and mercenaries would probably have to do the same too. Going against a naval fleet really wouldn't end well. On the 3rd day after you left Hawaii, the naval fleet entered Nanchi Island's waters again in an attempt to salvage the gold, but they were completely wiped out. Now, there's no naval fleet on Nanchi Island. That area is closed to navigation. Chen Zhao didn't expect such a change. Without the naval fleet, it was much easier for them to move around. However, Chen Zhao had to be more cautious. The annihilation of the naval fleet proved how dangerous that area was. No matter what, the final deciding factor was his own strength. In the past 2 days, Chen Zhao had been consolidating his cultivation. He didn't know how others were doing, but he could feel that ever since he'd comprehended worldly emptiness, his body seemed to have improved in some way. Why did humans pursue evolution? Because it felt good. That was the most fundamental reason. In the past, all living things in the world relied on the natural environment to evolve. However, since humans completed their evolution in a short period of 3 million years and completely dominated the entire Earth, humans stopped evolving. This was because the natural environment could no longer threaten humans. At least in most cases, the natural environment no longer threatened the entire human race. Therefore, the ancients created a cultivation system, or sought a breakthrough from other more advanced species. For example, he could borrow the magic of demons or the power of God. Their ultimate goal was to evolve. Whether it was to defeat nature, to defeat enemies, or to defeat their own kind, the ultimate goal of human evolution was to feel good. Why the hell would he evolve if he wasn't happy? Chen, where did you get such a big bird? Fei Lai watched as Chen Zhao set up a huge pot in the yard. It had a diameter of 2 meters and was filled with water from the previous rain. Fei Lai was already used to Chen Zhao bringing back strange creatures to eat from time to time. However, this big wok could only fit 1 piece of meat. Although the undying bird wasn't a super large creature, it was still nearly 20 meters long, almost as long as a small passenger plane. Phoenix, Chen Zhao said, glancing at Fei Lai. Hearing that, Fei Lai's pregnancy was almost affected. Are you serious? Yes, that night I went to hunt the undying bird. At this moment, a bus stopped. The people from the supernatural organization alighted from the bus, including the guard, Adus. They were no longer unfamiliar with Chen Zhao's home. A few young girls even brought swimsuits and planned to play in the water. Thus, it was more casual. West came over to greet Chen Zhao and Fei Lai. President, what creature is this? Undying bird, this time, I called you guys over to eat together. West was even more speechless. Phoenix. Can't you use a slightly more serious tone to say this? Oh, where's Gaia? I've already informed her, West asked. Gaia will come later. She's still on set. President, are there any feathers left? Yes. The feathers of the undying bird are very high-level magic materials. Oh, I'll organize them. If you need them in the future, just ask me. Were there any traces of the undying bird in the past? The last time it appeared was 100 years ago, 1914, in the Eiffel volcanic area. 1914. That's a special time, Chen Zhao said meaningfully. Yes, the First World War. West nodded. That's why the undying bird is also known as the messenger of disaster. Wait, Chen Zhao said, confused. In the West, the undying bird is called the divine bird. It can bring happiness and hope. The undying bird has different legends and images in Europe, West said. Most of them are vicious beasts that bring disaster and fire. Just then, Litgrove and Bona arrived too. Both of them were newbies in the supernatural world. When they heard that Chen Zhao was treating them to the undying bird's meat, their eyes almost popped out. Chen Zhao had cut off the thigh. It was only 1/5 of the undying bird's thigh, but it weighed 3 tons. Dad, I want to eat. Jerlin could already smell the meat. She pointed at the pot and drooled. The other pets were the same. They didn't bother and just surrounded the pot, drooling. Wait for your Auntie Gaia to come. Not now. This was a gathering hosted by Chen Zhao. It was basic etiquette to wait for all the guests to arrive. But Jerlin wants to eat. Does your Auntie Gaia treat you well? Jerlin looked conflicted. Then she nodded. Okay. So, if you eat, does everyone else have to eat too? What if Auntie Gaia comes and there's nothing to eat? Okay. Qin Zhao and Fei Lai loved little Jerlin, but they couldn't just ask for it. Luckily, Gaia didn't make Jerlin wait for long. When Gaia's car stopped in front of Qin Zhao's house, Jerlin welcomed Gaia with unprecedented enthusiasm. Auntie Gaia. Jerlin pounced at Gaia. Gaia was really flattered. She looked at little Jerlin in disbelief and reached out to pick her up. Jerlin, do you miss Auntie Gaia? Fei Lai covered her mouth and laughed. She's just greedy. Chen won't let her eat if you don't come. Chapter 1198. To be honest, the people in the association all liked the atmosphere of gatherings. Qin Zhao provided good food and they could talk freely. Gaia, how's the filming going? It's going well. We've already completed the initial stage. Stephen had been working hard for 2 months, but he'd only completed the initial stage. A real high-quality film couldn't be completed in 3 or 4 months. It wasn't that there weren't high-quality films in 3 or 4 months, but they definitely weren't commercial films. No commercial film could be completed in 3 or 4 months. Releasing it at the end of the year was already the most ideal speed. Little Jerlin's mouth was covered in grease. She grabbed a piece of meat and stuffed it into her mouth. Her 2 small front teeth did most of the chewing. Creatures with abundant magic usually had better meat. Magic could improve the quality of meat. At the same time, it could bring some benefits to the human body. Moreover, the remaining magic in the meat would amplify the comfort of the taste. Everyone enjoyed the meal to their heart's content. Even the soup base was packed for everyone to take back. Ritter Grove was the first to leave. He had to rush for the night shift. The next day, Qin Zhao and West went to a restaurant. Not long ago, someone had died here. It was the restaurant manager. He'd been attacked on his way home from the night shift. All the blood in his body had been sucked dry. The police concluded that it was the work of a psychopath. There was nothing they could do about it. There were no clues at the scene. The fatal wound was a 10-centimeter deep cut on the neck. The manager's neck had almost been cut off. Qin Zhao and West each ordered a meal. A woman with big waves walked up to them with their food. Here are your orders, Yi Zichen said. West took out $100 bill and handed it to Big Waves. Stunned, Big Waves looked at West. Sir, did you give the wrong bill? Tipping was a popular culture in America, but usually, waiters in restaurants like this would be given $5 or $10. Very few people would give large bills as tips. Big Waves had met some customers before. They would also give large tips, but most of the time, they would make unreasonable requests. Big Waves couldn't help but wonder if the two thought she was that kind of woman. What's your name? West asked, looking up. Ella Morgan. I want to ask you a few questions. If you can answer them, this $100 is yours. My 3 measurements. If it was just her 3 measurements, Ella Morgan wouldn't mind sharing it with others. After all, a $100 tip is not a small amount. No, I heard that your manager was killed a week ago. Is that right? Who are you? Ella Morgan asked with a frown. You don't need to know who we are. You just need to answer our questions. Are you policemen? Sort of. A few waves of police officers have already come. What else do you want to ask? Does the manager have a grudge against anyone in the restaurant? Revenge? I don't think so. Ella Morgan shook her head. But everyone in the restaurant hates him. That guy is a jerk. How so? He often harassed me and the other waitresses. He's also very harsh to everyone. No one feels sad about his death. We're actually happy." Chen Zhao and West glanced at each other. According to Ella Morgan, all the employees in the restaurant were suspects, including Miss Ella Morgan. "Oh, did you notice that the other employees in the restaurant have some changes in their personalities? Or abnormal behavior? You suspect that the killer is from our restaurant. How is that possible? That day, we were all partying in the bar until dawn." "Are you sure?" "Of course. Didn't the police investigate a few days ago?" Ella Morgan looked at Chen Zhao and West. "Are you policemen or not?" "Whatever, we're fine." West stuffed the $100 into Ella Morgan's hand. The two of them didn't even take a bite before they got up to leave. "President, do you think the killer is an employee in the restaurant? Could it be that one of the employees found an excuse to leave for a while and then returned to the crime scene after killing someone?" Chen Zhao asked. "We'll have to find out more from the police. I have a police friend. I'll call and ask." Chen Zhao called David. "David, I have a case to ask you." "What case is worth your attention?" "Someone named Voight was killed a week ago. The fatal wound was his neck. His blood was sucked dry. Could it be the work of a vampire?" David asked curiously. "No, it should be a Japanese katana," Chen Zhao said. "This guy is very dangerous. If you encounter him, don't be rash and don't let him get close." "Let me check. Which street is it?" "West Road Street." "Got it. I'll send you all the information I can on the case." "Okay, thank you." Chen Zhao soon received David's message. The West Road Street police station had taken over the case. There was also some interim evidence. This so-called interim evidence was not the kind that could be used in court. It was used to prove or push the case forward. For example, the police had obtained a recording from the bar. The recording proved Ella Morgan's words. They had indeed partied the whole night in the bar. No one had been there for more than 10 minutes. The bar was more than 25 kilometers away from the crime scene, so they could eliminate the possibility that it was a restaurant employee. 10 minutes was definitely not enough time to commit the crime. "It's not a restaurant employee," Chen Zhao said. "Could it be that the victim offended someone in his life?" West suggested another possibility. From the restaurant employee and the police's evidence, it was clear that the victim was not a likable person. He was harsh to the employees in the restaurant and even touched the waitresses. He did not like his neighbors either. Over the years, he had accumulated many grievances and grudges. "Let's go to his house. Maybe we can find some clues." Just then, there was a commotion in the restaurant. Chen Zhao and West turned around and saw Ella Morgan throw a bouquet of roses at a bespectacled man. "I said, stop harassing me. I don't like you. Even if all the men in the world die, I won't like you." Chapter 1199. The man in glasses didn't look well. It wasn't just because he'd been pushed down. It was also because of everyone's gazes. Ella Morgan crossed her arms and stood in front of the bespectacled man. That condescending gaze, that disgusted gaze, made the bespectacled man very uncomfortable. "You all deserve to die, you bitch." "Bitch!" Under everyone's gaze, the man in glasses turned around and left with his head lowered. "Loser," Ella Morgan said in disdain, twitching her lips. Seeing Chen Zhao and West in the distance, Ella Morgan pointed at them and blew them a kiss from afar. The man in glasses was currently in a trance. He kept muttering, "Bitch, I killed that asterisk shoal who harassed you for you, but you still won't look me in the eye. You can go die too." Ella Morgan didn't know that the man in glasses was already holding a grudge against her. A short-haired female colleague came to Ella Morgan's side. Ella, you better be careful. That man looks very uncomfortable. What's there to be afraid of? Ella Morgan said viciously. If he dares to harass me again, I'll castrate him. Where exactly did you meet him? The colleague asked. Not only Ella Morgan, but this female colleague also looked down on the bespectacled man. A woman's first impression of a man was nothing more than his clothes and appearance. She couldn't possibly see through a person's heart at a glance. Any woman would find it hard to accept a man with messy hair and old-fashioned clothes. Women basically called this type of man a loser. I think he's a porter from the airport. He came to our shop a month ago and asked for a cup of coffee for breakfast every day. I talked to him for a while and then we didn't talk anymore. A few days ago, he wanted my phone number. Of course, I rejected him. I didn't expect him to come again today and want to go on a date with me. I really don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's doing. Ella Morgan glanced at the colleague beside her. Gage, where do you plan to go after work? Let's go home, the female colleague, Gatla, said. You're boring too. Why don't we go to the bar for a drink? There are many handsome guys in the bar we went to last time. Maybe we can get to know one or two. No. Gage rejected Ella Morgan's suggestion. I'd rather watch a soap opera at home. Gage. That. Can I stay at your house for a night? Why are you staying at my place? I was kicked out by the landlord. All right, Gageland said. Then shall we go back together after work? Okay, by the way, I ran out of beer at home. After work, I'll go to the supermarket to buy some beer. Gage looked like an ordinary girl, but Ella Morgan knew that she could hold her liquor very well. Moreover, Gatkala's interests and hobbies were very different from a normal girl. Ella Morgan had been to Gage's house. Gatkala had even set up a workshop in his own house. Every day when he returned home, he would go back and make all sorts of strange things. Sometimes, Ella Morgan even wondered if Gage was a man who had been reincarnated into the wrong body. After work, the two of them went straight to the supermarket and brought a few boxes of canned beer out. Gage, are you a monster or not? Don't you think it's heavy? Gage was 1.7 meters tall, but he didn't look very strong. However, he found it hard to carry a box of canned beer by himself. But Gage was carrying 6 boxes of beer with both hands. Ella Morgan always felt that there was a monster living in Gage's body. If you're willing to spend an hour working out every day instead of spending it on men, you can too. Is your so-called working out blacksmithing? Gage, wake up. That's not what a woman should do. Women should be like me, dressing themselves up beautifully every day. You have to think of yourself as a princess, not a rough man. Like you, going for an abortion every 6 months on average. Gatkala rolled his eyes. Just like how Ella Morgan couldn't understand Gage's way of thinking. Gage also couldn't understand Ella Morgan's way of thinking. After putting the beer in the trunk, the two of them drove home. Don't get touchy, bitch. Gage couldn't stand Ella Morgan anymore. This woman was completely unscrupulous. She was already groping her in the car. You don't have any muscles, so why are you so much stronger than me? Gage rolled his eyes at Ella Morgan. A person's strength isn't all in their biceps. If you want big muscles, you should go watch bodybuilding competitions. When they arrived at Gakira's house, Ella Morgan opened the door and went in. Ella, aren't you going to move the beer? Gage carried 7 boxes of beer in. You can move them without me, Ella Morgan said. Gage, the land around here is all yours, right? Yes. If a real estate developer takes a liking to this land, you'll be rich. Forget it. It's such a remote place. Even if I sell it, I won't be able to sell it for much. It's indeed a bit remote, but if you sell it, you'll definitely be able to open your own restaurant. By then, I'll be your manager. If that day really comes, I'll definitely ask you to be the manager. Gage took a can of beer and went to the workshop in the back. Ella Morgan followed him to the back. The workshop was a small blacksmith shop. Gage skillfully opened the vent of the furnace. Air entered the furnace, and the flames inside immediately rose. On the other hand, Ella Morgan took down an exquisitely crafted longsword hanging on the wall. It's heavy. What's this thing used for? This is a restoration of a game item. This sword was reserved by a gamer. It's $1,200. Ella Morgan sucked in a breath of cold air. So expensive. Then aren't you rich? It's only $1,200. Is there a need to make such a big deal out of it? Also, I spent half a month making this sword. On average, I didn't even earn $100 a day. This is extra income on top of your job, Ella Morgan said. I really want to learn from you. Forget it. You can't even pick up that hammer. Gage, although I'm not as strong as you, you're underestimating me. That hammer looks like it's only about 20 kilograms. You can try it. Unconvinced, Ella Morgan went to the hammer. She held the handle and wanted to lift it, but she realized that the hammer was heavier than she thought. Chapter 1200. Gage lifted the hammer with one hand. Ella Morgan looked at Gage. Do you have the blood of a berserker? Gage froze for a moment, but then he rolled his eyes. You know berserkers too. I thought a woman like you wouldn't know the word. Please, I played games in school too. Do you really think I'm a brainless idiot with big boobs? This sword was a replica of a very famous weapon in the game, Frostmourne. Ella Morgan held the sword and waved it around. The sword weighed more than 10 kilograms, but it was definitely lighter than the hammer. Ella Morgan was also in a playful mood. She let out a yelling sound. Gatella ignored Ella Morgan, holding a hammer and pounding on the workbench. After playing for a while, Ella Morgan came to the workbench. She was about to reach for a piece of metal in front of her. Gage stopped her. Use tweezers. This piece of metal just came out of the furnace. It's still very hot. Ella Morgan used the tweezers to pick up the piece of metal. It's so heavy. Is this steel? Why do I feel like it's heavier than gold? Alloy, Ella Morgan said calmly. Are you forging a weapon in the game too? No. Gage shook his head. The items in the game won't be this heavy. If this axe isn't a game item, what is it? Weapon. People buy this? Yes, Gage said calmly. Just then, the doorbell rang. I'll go open the door, Ella Morgan said. It was mainly because the temperature in the workshop was a bit high. In just 10 minutes, she was already drenched in sweat. Ella Morgan opened the door and saw the bespectacled man standing at the door. Why are you here? The man with glasses raised his head and pushed up his glasses. A strange smile appeared on his face. I don't want to see you. Ella Morgan frowned and closed the door. But in the next moment, the door was suddenly pierced. Ella Morgan was startled when the sharp blade was thrust into her chest. Then the blade moved up and the door and connected wall were cut open. Ah! Ella Morgan jumped in fright and screamed. When Gatcula heard the cry, he ran out with his hammer. Seeing the door that was cut open, Gatcula could not help but frown. She had never seen anyone who dared to cause trouble at her place. Gage, hurry up and call the police. This madman has a knife. Gatcula looked at the bespectacled man outside the door. The man's aura made him feel even more uncomfortable. This man is weird. She had already sensed that there was something strange about him. Now the ominous aura around him was even stronger. And the katana in his hand, it gave Gakira the feeling of evil. Who are you? If you don't leave now, I won't be polite anymore. Genkira scolded as she gripped her hammer tightly. At that moment, the bespectacled man gripped the katana's hilt with both hands, raised it above his head, and slashed at the half of the door. Hiss! Gage instinctively pushed Ella Morgan down and dodged at the same time. A saber chi slashed across the walkway, leaving a shocking saber mark on the floor and ceiling. The wooden structure of the house was almost split open by the bespectacled man. Ella Morgan's face paled in fear. What kind of monster was this? Gatkula's expression became even more solemn. This guy was scarier than he had imagined. A sudden burst of strength burst out of Gatkula's right arm as he raised his hammer and smashed it at the bespectacled man. The bespectacled man immediately blocked the katana in front of his chest. The hammer smashed onto the katana, but the force did not diminish, sending the bespectacled man flying more than 10 meters away. Gatkula rushed out of the house and stood in front of the bespectacled man. At the same time, she grabbed the air with her right hand, and the hammer that had been sent flying returned to her palm. Ella Morgan looked at Gatkula in shock. Gatkula, you're Thor, right? The hammer in your hand is Thor's hammer, isn't it? Gatkula glanced at Ella Morgan from the corner of her eye. What are you doing out here? It's too dangerous out here. You'll protect me, right? Gatkula's expression darkened. She had rushed out of the house to protect Ella Morgan. In the end, Ella Morgan ran out herself. Although the bespectacled man was sent flying, he stood in front of Gatkula without a scratch on him. Ella, did you see that? Did you see my power? Are you still going to reject me now? The bespectacled man's face seemed a little twisted. His expression that was close to being abnormal was really hard for women to accept. I won't like you. Just give up, you pervert. Do you know what I've done for you? I killed that restaurant manager of yours for you. Do you know how much I've done for you? His words did not change Ella Morgan's mind. It only made her more afraid and more resistant to the bespectacled man. You pervert. If a woman wanted to like a man, the first thing she needed was a sense of security. Obviously, the bespectacled man did not give her any sense of security. In Ella Morgan's eyes, this man was a perverted murderer. What Ella Morgan said made the bespectacled man even more furious. The bespectacled man raised his sword and slashed at Ella Morgan from a distance of more than 10 meters. The aura of the blade cut through the air and attacked Ella Morgan with a tearing force. Gatkula slammed his hammer on the ground. The ground immediately formed a shock wave that spread in all directions. At the same time, it also dispersed the aura of the blade. The bespectacled man was also affected by the shock wave. He was sent flying and crashed into a tree behind him. Unfortunately, the devil's blade in his hand also flew out in the air and pierced through the bespectacled man's body. Gatkula heaved a sigh of relief. His luck was really good. Is he dead, Gatkula? I don't know, but he definitely can't fight anymore. Gatkula glanced at the bespectacled man whose body was pierced through. Just then, Gatkula noticed a black sports car parked not far from his house. Honestly, he did not believe that the car belonged to the bespectacled man. If the bespectacled man could drive that car, he would not be called a loser by Ella Morgan. Whose car is that? Gatkula asked. Is it this guy's? No, I remember this pervert's car is a very old one. Just then, the black sports car drove over. Ella Morgan realized that the two people in the car were the ones who came to her restaurant today. Miss, are you a berserker? West looked at Gatkula and asked curiously. Who are you? Gatkula's expression was still vigilant. We're the same kind of people as you. How about joining us? West asked. Not interested. This is my home. You better leave immediately. Chapter 12:01. When Qin Zhao and West were at the entrance of the restaurant, they'd already realized that there was something wrong with this guy. So when the bespectacled man tailed Ella Morgan and Gakira, they were also tailing the bespectacled man. They'd wanted to stop them, but Gatella had already charged out. West had discovered something special about Getula. That was why they were watching from the side. Genkira's strength was also at the bottom of the pack in the association. He could probably only be compared to Jolanash in the past. If it was the current Jolanash, she could probably make Gatella kneel down in 1 minute. However, West felt that Gatella's bloodline was full of potential. Maybe she'd become the next Gaia. Even if she couldn't become the next Gaia, becoming the next Jolanash wouldn't be bad either. Right now, the guy's face was completely different from a human's. The muscles on his face were completely twisted, making him look like a monster. A pair of spiral horns grew out of his head. He had a green face, fangs, and a bloody mouth. Of course, he was also called a ghost in Japan. His body also became bigger and bigger, and his clothes were almost torn apart. Gatella looked at the guy who'd turned into a ghost. Right now, the guy's demonic aura was many times stronger than before. All of you must die, all of you, the guy said in a hoarse voice. Grabbing the hammer, Gatella stared at the guy with a serious expression. Qin Zhao immediately started the car and hid far away. What a joke. His car was worth almost $2 million. If he got involved in their battle, he'd lose $2 million in 1 round. Seeing Qin Zhao and West escape, Gatella sneered inwardly. He was indeed unreliable. During the battle earlier, he only dared to peep from a dark corner. Now that he saw this thing attack again, he escaped again. Just then, the green ghost charged over with a katana and slashed at Gatella. Gatella hurriedly raised his hammer to block. However, a corner of the hammer was cut off by the katana. Gatula, on the other hand, was under great pressure, and took a dozen steps back. Qin Zhao sat on the back of the car and watched the fight between Gatella and the green ghost. Wes leaned against the back of the car. President, aren't we going to help? Don't worry, this girl won't die anytime soon. Also, didn't you see? After the Ghost King took the initiative, it didn't really use its full strength. It didn't kill on purpose. Genkira barely blocked Green Ghoul's attack, but even Ella Morgan could see that Genkira couldn't beat Green Ghoul. Ever since the bespectacled man transformed into a green ghost, both his strength and speed had greatly increased. Genkira found it hard to even breathe after being struck by the green demon's attack. Is this all you've got? If that's all, then you should be more honest. That way, you can suffer less pain. Green Ghost easily slashed out a terrifying attack with one hand. Gatkala spat out another mouthful of blood to block the blow. Hey, do you need our help? Qin Zhao called. Gatella snorted coldly. Just mind your own business. If I die, you won't be able to escape death either. Genkira calmed his mind and focused on dealing with the green demon. Gatella's heart skipped a beat as she suddenly realized a problem. This bespectacled man was definitely an ordinary person. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become a loser in other people's eyes. The problem was definitely the katana in his hand. No one knew where he obtained this evil katana from, and how he obtained the power of the katana. However, he was clearly controlled by the katana too. If she could destroy the katana, perhaps it would end. Genkira's skin started turning red. Her eyes were as red as a bull's. Even her hair grew longer. Fuck, she can't be a Super Saiyan, right? That's the Berserker bloodline. She's more like the Hulk than a Super Saiyan, West said. West said, the angrier a berserker is, the more powerful they are. Furthermore, they can control and accumulate their anger. Then, when they need to, they can release their anger. However, this method of releasing anger can increase their strength for a short period of time, but it can only last for a short time. After this state of rage ends, they will enter a period of weakness. An angry roar came from Gatkula's mouth as the hammer in his hand swung out fiercely. Green Ghoul's katana also slashed at the hammer. Clang! In an instant, the katana in Green Ghoul's hand was shattered. At the same time, Green Ghoul also suffered a frontal attack from the hammer. His huge body flew out. Whoosh, whoosh, Gakira panted heavily. In that instant, she had accumulated all her strength into one attack. After this attack, a sense of weakness hit her. The feeling of weakness was too strong. Gakira could barely stand. She knelt on one knee. Gakira, are you okay? Ella Morgan hurried over and helped Gakira up. I'm fine. Gakira's legs were weak. Just then, Chen Zhao and West came over again. Girl, what do you think about our previous suggestion? Chen Zhao asked. I won't join you, Gakira said with determination. I see. Chen Zhao glanced at Green Ghoul in the distance. The battle isn't over yet. That demon sword needs to kill 9 men and 9 women to be unsealed, but you shattered it directly. Now, that ghost has come out earlier. Gakira looked in Green Ghoul's direction. Indeed, she saw Green Ghoul stand up from the ground. Just then, thick demonic aura was released from the broken pieces of the demon sword. Behind the green ghost, there was already a terrifying ghost face. Hee hee. Stupid human, it's all because of you that I'm free. Green Ghoul didn't have a weapon now, but his aura was 10 times stronger than before. Chen Zhao glanced at Green Ghoul and then said to Gakira, if you're willing to join us, we'll help you deal with this guy. Do you know what you're saying? Can you deal with this thing? To be honest, Gakira felt that Chen Zhao and West joining them was just 2 more victims. They couldn't defeat this thing at all. That kind of unprecedented evil was not something that humans could contend against. That's our problem. Do you agree? Chen Zhao asked. Gakira's eyes flashed. Are you really going to deal with that monster? As long as you join us, we'll help you. What organization are you exactly? Supernatural organization. That useless organization. Chapter 1202. What Gatkula was thinking now was to let the 2 idiots deal with the green ghost while she pulled Ella Morgan and ran away. Just then, Chen Zhao's phone rang. It was Gaia. Chen, where are you now? I'm in Mary's sector. It's a bit remote. Not far from me. Norma just called me and said that Pamela's going to complete her transformation tonight. Oh, what are you doing in Mary's sector? There's a ghost from Japan. Chen Zhao took a photo and sent it to Gaia. It looks really strong. Even though it's just a photo, I can feel the evil aura from it. It was mainly because the green ghost was too ugly, which was why everyone only cared about appearances. Give me the location and leave the ghost to me, Gaia said. Then you better hurry. I'm not sure if I can leave it until you get here. I'll come as fast as I can. Gakira glanced at Chen Zhao. Do you have reinforcements? Yes. Gakira realized that Chen Zhao and West weren't worried at all. He guessed that the reinforcements would be very strong. But would they make it in time? The green ghost didn't attack immediately. It also had to recover to its strongest state. The demonic aura emitted from the broken demonic blade had already been completely released. The green ghost was absorbing all the demonic aura. The more it absorbed, the stronger it became. Finally, it absorbed all the demonic aura. At this moment, Azure Ghost finally revealed his most terrifying aura and terrifying pressure. Green Demon looked at the crowd and grinned, revealing his bloody mouth. I haven't eaten anyone in a long time. It cackled. Ella Morgan was so scared that she was trembling. It looked at Ella Morgan and licked its lips. Don't worry. I won't eat you. Ella Morgan was even more terrified. She could imagine how the monster would torture her. Suddenly, Ella Morgan and Gakira realized that there was a patch of red light in the night sky behind the green ghost. There seemed to be a ball of fire in the middle of the red light. Missile. The two girls were confused. Suddenly, the fireball lowered its altitude, and its flight trajectory seemed to be falling diagonally. Green Ghost also felt something approaching from behind, so he turned around to look. By then, the ball of fire had already landed on its body. Bang! This unexpected attack came too suddenly. The huge impact and scorching heat enveloped Green Ghost. Flame Blast also rushed towards Ella Morgan. But Gage pulled Ella Morgan behind him. Amidst the smoke and dust, two figures were fighting fiercely. Dragon. Ella Morgan's eyes widened as she stared at the figure that was gradually becoming clearer. Then, they saw Green Ghost being thrown in front of them. One of Green Ghost's arms was torn off, and purplish-green blood flowed from the wound. He looked very miserable. Gaia stood there in her fire dragon form. When she first transformed into a fire dragon, her body was more than 5 meters long. Now, she could reach 7 meters. She was also bigger than Abitos. Of course, she was different from Abitos. Abitos's bloodline was purer than hers, so he grew faster. Those fiery red scales were filled with a dignified sense of oppression, causing Ella Morgan and Gakira to be filled with awe. Gakira looked at Qin Zhao and West. Were these their so-called reinforcements? No wonder they were so confident. With a fire dragon like this, was there any enemy they couldn't defeat? Just as Gakira's thoughts were running wild, Gaia attacked Green Ghost again. Green Ghost was quite strong, but it was still much weaker than Gaia. Moreover, ever since she could transform into a fire dragon, Gaia's appetite had become somewhat twisted. For example, she tore off Green Ghost's arm and swallowed it directly. Whether it was in terms of power, speed, or mana, Gaia was far superior to Azure Ghost. In terms of attributes, she crushed Green Ghost too. Green Ghost didn't plan to continue fighting. He wanted to escape, but the sudden arrival of the fire dragon made him unable to fight back. But Gaia clearly didn't plan to let him escape so easily. She spat out a mouthful of dragon breath at Green Ghost's back, and he was blown to the ground. Gaia pounced and killed him with one bite. Half of Green Ghost's body was gone. Gaia bit again, and Green Ghost didn't even have any scraps left. After swallowing Green Ghost, Gaia finally recovered her human form. Ella Morgan and Gakira stared at Gaia in shock. This big woman was transformed from the fire dragon. Are you full? Chen Zhao went up to greet Gaia. Not bad. It's rare to have an opponent like this. Gaia looked at Ella Morgan and Gakira. Who are they? That girl has the Berserker bloodline. Chen Zhao pointed at Gakira. You're Gakira, right? We helped you get rid of your enemies, so either you join us, or we'll let Gaia eat you. Gaia rolled her eyes. Is this how you threaten people? Little girl, don't be scared. I don't eat people, nor will I force you. If you're not willing, then forget it. I'm willing, Gakira said. Hello, Miss Fire Dragon. I'm Gakira. Gakira looked at Gaia with admiration. What about me? Ella Morgan asked. I want to join you too. What abilities do you have? Seduce men. The group brought Gakira back to the headquarters. Ella Morgan had no home to go back to, so she followed them for the time being. Gakira had heard of the supernatural organization in the past, but she hadn't heard anything positive from her own kind. Weak and useless. That was what she'd heard. However, after coming to the organization, she realized that it was really rich. At least, the headquarters building before them was enough to prove how rich it was. The gatekeeper was a normal old man. It seemed that the supernatural organization wasn't strong after all. The only one who was powerful was probably Gaia. Gakira had been calculating the organization's strength in her mind. Just then, a group of evil spirits walked toward them. Gakira jumped, thinking that they were being attacked by evil spirits. However, when the evil spirits arrived before them, they didn't attack. President, Lady Pamela's aura is becoming chaotic tonight. According to the records of the transformation process, on the night she completes the transformation, she will attract a large number of evil spirits to attack. Even we are affected now. As time goes by, this effect will become stronger. Then, it won't just be us. I'm afraid that even evil spirits from outside will be attracted to Lady Pamela's aura. If you think you can't control it, then lock yourselves in the dungeon. Don't come out and cause trouble, Chen Zhao said calmly. If you don't have the self-control and still come out, I'll kill you first. The evil spirits didn't dare to be impudent before Chen Zhao. They knew that Chen Zhao would definitely do it. If anyone can maintain their self-control and do something tonight, you'll be in the second batch of transformation. West, you're in charge of recording the evil spirits participating in the battle tonight. Yes, President. Chapter 1203. Gage still didn't understand the situation. Ella Morgan didn't seem to either. Miss Gaia, do you have any plans tonight? Gage asked. No, Gage said. Go rest with your friends. To Gaia, Gage was still very weak. There was no need for her to get involved in this battle. Gage wasn't an idiot. Even Ella Morgan could tell that something was up. Gage saw that the people of the Lightning team were fully armed and prepared their guns. It seemed like a huge battle was about to happen. Oh, send Pamela to the front hall, Chen Zhao said. Let us watch her. Previously, Pamela had been in the evil spirit nest, guarded by an evil spirit. However, when the transformation was complete, Pamela would release her aura. At this moment, Pamela was like a piece of cheese covered in cream. Almost all the evil spirits in the city would be attracted to Pamela. Even the original evil spirit subordinates would be affected by Pamela. Therefore, it was very unsafe to let the evil spirits continue to protect Pamela. Of course, this was just a temptation. Any evil spirit with a bit of rationality could resist it. Chen Zhao didn't ask the evil spirit group of the association to join the battle. They could choose to imprison themselves and temporarily send them to the dungeon. Of course, they could also choose to join the battle and help the association defend against the evil spirits. However, if they lost control when the evil spirits attacked, Chen Zhao wouldn't be merciful to them. I can stay and help, Gage said. No, you won't be able to help. Then why can this old man do it? Gage pointed at Aduz and then at Lisa. If this girl can do it, why can't I? Aduz was fully armed at the moment. As the Chinese said, he was getting stronger with age. Aduz was now armed to the teeth. As the Chinese said, he was getting stronger with age. As for Reisa, she was still playing with her phone with her legs crossed. As for Lisa, she was still playing with her phone with her legs crossed. The relaxed people were relaxed, while the nervous people were nervous. For example, the people of the Lightning team were equipping and inspecting their weapons. Another group of people were playing cards in a circle or sleeping on the sofa in the front hall. Pamela was sent to the front hall. Gage looked at her in the glass container. Pamela's body emitted an aura that made people's hearts tremble. What is she? She is a member of the society. In words that you can understand, she is evolving. She's not human. She's dead, an evil spirit. Padalu and Jalag were adjusting the equipment. Padalu had been working on his laptop the entire time. Suddenly, Padalu stopped. President, dozens of evil spirits have entered the association's territory. In Genkira's opinion, a few dozen wraiths were already a terrifying number. However, the people from the association continued to do what they were supposed to do. No one said anything. At this moment, the lights in the front hall began to flicker. Bang! Before Klaus could open fire, Adus fired first. An electric arc shot out. An evil spirit was shot by Adus in front of everyone. Genkira's face was filled with astonishment. She wouldn't be surprised if anyone here could destroy that evil spirit. However, the person who had just made a move was actually the person who was least likely to make a move. Adus, your reaction is really fast, Klaus said. I go to the Tower of Trials every day. I didn't learn anything else, but I learned how to shoot, Adus said. Adus might be the most relaxed in the association, but there was also a restless soul in his heart. He went to the Tower of Trials every day. As a regular person, there was no doubt about what would happen. Even Klaus and the other members of the Lightning team would most likely die in the Tower of Trials, let alone Adus. By now, the wind was howling outside the glass window. Countless evil spirits were wandering outside. Evil spirits cried and howled outside. Occasionally, some would charge into the front hall. When Chen Zhao saw the evil spirits shatter the glass window of the headquarters, he immediately stood up. President, don't do it, Norma said. Everyone else had the same expression. If Chen Zhao attacked, they wouldn't be able to do anything. They all knew Chen Zhao's strongest ability, evil spirit killer. They didn't want Chen Zhao to ruin such a rare battle. What were dozens of evil spirits to the association? The few members of the Lightning team could deal with them together. Norma could deal with them alone. Gaia could deal with them alone. Jolene and Nash could deal with them alone too. A few dozen evil spirits were nothing to them. Morid walked out of the front hall. He'd always been a person with no sense of presence in the association. In the past, he'd been the main fighting force in the association, but after Chen Zhao came, his growth couldn't keep up with everyone else. Even his little brother Moer had grown faster than him in the past. Of course, it wasn't that Morid didn't work hard. He worked harder than anyone else. His strength wasn't just related to magic power. Compared to others, his magic power indeed didn't grow fast enough. But he was the messenger of nature. As long as he had the seeds of some magic plants, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Morid casually tossed out a handful of unknown seeds. The seeds quickly stuck to the spirits of the surrounding evil spirits. Then, the seeds grew rapidly on the evil spirits' bodies, turning into watermelon-sized spores. Soon, the spores exploded. The surrounding evil spirits were instantly crushed. Morid killed half of the evil spirits in one go. These were the seeds of magic spores. After receiving magic power, they could quickly attach to the surrounding creatures and grow. In an extremely short time, they completed a cycle of development and growth before exploding. Morid also had the ability to catalyze plants. He could control the growth speed of the magic spores and when they exploded. Of course, as the messenger of nature, seeds couldn't increase his strength. These seeds needed to be nurtured. Because Morid spent a lot of time nurturing the seeds, his cultivation time was naturally reduced. This was also the reason why the growth of his magic power was not fast. But aside from Chen Zhao, no one else could destroy so many evil spirits in one strike. Morad's growth is surprising, Gaia said, looking at the fierce battle outside. He should be able to reach the second level of the Tower of Trials, right? He's in Patya's team, West said. They've always been in the Tower of Trials together, so he hasn't been able to reach the second level. With that, West looked back at Patya. Patya blushed and lowered her head. It seemed that they had feelings for each other. Chapter 1204. Genkira was completely speechless. Because there were 20 to 30 people in the lobby, no one cared whether Morad won or lost. No one cared how dangerous it was outside. What everyone cared about was whether Morad and Patya had gotten on the bus. Suddenly, a huge shadow loomed over the association. Everyone saw that it was a group of evil spirits. It was made up of hundreds of evil spirits. This evil spirit group was filled with an unsettling aura. This aura was different from Gaia's dragon aura, nor was it like the evil of the green ghouls. Instead, it was a feeling that would make one's emotions uneasy and restless. Genkira subconsciously roused the berserker's anger, and his skin turned red. Gaia pulled Genkira back. You just fought and haven't recovered yet. We don't need you. Genkira looked at Gaia. Are you going to fight? If it was Gaia, Genkira believed that she could defeat the twisted, filthy thing in the sky. Not yet, Gaia said, looking up at the sky. A green light appeared in the sky. Genkira seemed to hear the sound of hooves. He looked up and saw a green flame spreading in the sky. It was a horse burning with green flames. Nightmare. That's right, it was Nightmare. The legendary Nightmare. Norma closed her eyes and spread her arms. She was controlling Nightmare. Or rather, she was Nightmare. Nightmare's four limbs stepped heavily on the evil spirit group. The evil spirit group was stomped to the ground, and Nightmare headbutted it again. But this time, the collision didn't cause any physical damage. Nightmare directly passed through the evil spirit group. When the shapeshifter emerged from another direction, its body was already shackled with countless chains. The other side of the chains was connected to the evil spirit group. Every evil spirit in the evil spirit group was chained up by a chain. Nightmare's lead. The evil spirit group was led by Nightmare. Dream enslavement. The evil spirits were like marionettes of the Nightmare, and they were enslaved and controlled by the Nightmare. They began to attack other evil spirits that weren't enslaved. Genkira's face was full of shock. It turned out that apart from Gaia, the supernatural organization had such a powerful witch. However, the previous attacks were just a prelude. The number of evil spirits increased. Helis also took action. Her 12 brothers and sisters turned into evil spirits and were fighting for her. Her 12 brothers and sisters were not ordinary evil spirits. They all possessed magic and magic from when they were alive. The other members of the association also joined the battle one after another. Support players like West and Patya also joined the battle. Only Gaia and Chen Zhao watched the battle calmly. Pamela had attracted too many evil spirits. To these evil spirits, Pamela, who had yet to awaken, was nourishment. It was a temptation that came from the depths of one's soul. The evil spirits of the association also joined the battle. Although it was only a small portion, it was not only because of their strong willpower, but also because of their fear of Chen Zhao. Their fear of Chen Zhao made them overcome their instincts. To put it bluntly, it was impulsiveness and restraint. Although this kind of instinctive impulse was hard to resist, it wouldn't make him lose his mind completely. They knew Chen Zhao. They knew how terrifying he was. Compared to the instinctive temptation, their fear of Chen Zhao was also ingrained in their bones. Helis getting more and more proficient in death magic. Norma's using of her bloodline has improved a lot too. Help. Just then, Aduz ran toward Qinzhao and Gaia. Although most of the time, he only went up to cause trouble. No one stopped him. If these old bones of his want to move, then let him move a little. If not, Qinzhao wouldn't mind if he stayed in the association and retired. Aduz was smart. He knew that running toward Qinzhao and Gaia was the safest. However, to Gaia's surprise, the evil spirit that was chasing Aduz suddenly let out a blood-curdling screech before dissipating with a wail. Gaia looked at Qinzhao. She had seen Qinzhao in the past. When facing evil spirits, he didn't do anything and just made them disappear. But she couldn't tell how he did it. Not just her, even Alice, who had the most comprehensive knowledge of magic, didn't know. In the past, Qinzhao had used Blackie's ability because no one could see him. But now, Qinzhao had his own small world. Against a regular evil spirit, Qinzhao's small world could easily destroy it. Of course, this was only against regular evil spirits. If it was a stronger creature, the ability would be useless. Right now, most of the association's building was enveloped in Qinzhao's small world. Actually, even if Aduz didn't forget to run toward Qinzhao, he wouldn't be in danger. Aduz knew that it was safe, so he told Qinzhao and Gaia and then went to kill evil spirits. This old man wants to prove himself more than anyone else, Gaia said, looking at Aduz's back. Oh, does Aduz have any family? Yes, I remember he said that because his daughter and son-in-law don't have a high income, he came out to work. Then he was hired by West. His family always thought that he was a security guard in a regular company, Gaia said. But he doesn't dare to let his family know that he's doing such a dangerous job, so he only puts a portion of his income into his daughter's bank card. Ever since Qinzhao became the president of the supernatural organization, the benefits and salaries of the members had increased greatly. Of course, Aduz was one of them. Qinzhao's original intention was that since they'd chosen to join the association, it was a dangerous job. At the very least, he had to make sure that everyone wouldn't encounter difficulties because of their family's burden. Oh, how's your son? He's already adapted to the environment here. Gaia smiled. Qinzhao's expression was one that he would only show to his closest family. When he talked about Jerlin, he had the same feeling. Next time the association travels, bring your son. We'll see. Gaia stood up. She wasn't really willing to bring her son to mingle with the people from the association. It wasn't that she looked down on the people in the association. It was just like a father who was a cop but didn't want his son to be one too. Genkira looked at Qinzhao and Gaia speechlessly. Couldn't they tell how dangerous the situation outside was? They were just talking about their daily lives, right? Suddenly, Genkira heard a sound from behind. Genkira turned around and saw a crack on the glass container. Qinzhao and Gaia also looked at the glass container. Chapter 1205. Cracks kept spreading on the glass container. Gatella suddenly took a few steps back. She could feel a terrifying chill seeping out of the container. Even though the container wasn't opened yet, the cold air seeping out of the cracks already made her shiver uncontrollably. Pamela destroyed the container herself and then walked out. Pamela was a spirit, but because the container wasn't ordinary glass, spirits couldn't penetrate it. Pamela's aura and temperament had completely changed. Pamela was feeling the unfamiliar power in her body. Gage looked at Pamela. Pamela was giving off an oppressive feeling that came from deep within her soul. Pamela was a wailing banshee. She still couldn't control her aura completely. But Pamela could feel that she was many times stronger than before. She even had the vague thought of challenging Qinzhao. But this dangerous thought only lasted for a moment. Chen Zhao had said that he knew another veteran wailing banshee. Then he definitely knew how strong she was. Pamela landed before Chen Zhao and knelt down to greet him. President. Yes, we're not some feudal organization. Why are you kneeling on the ground? Chen Zhao said calmly. It's a mess outside because of you. Pamela had already noticed the situation outside. President, can you tell them to come back? Are you going to deal with those evil spirits alone? Yes. Pamela nodded. You can all come back. Pamela's already awake. Everyone hurried back to the headquarters and congratulated Pamela. Pamela was an old member. Other than the oldest members, she was the first to join the supernatural organization in Chen Zhao's era. Pamela had a good relationship with the people in the society, so everyone was happy for Pamela's achievements. Pamela walked out of the living room. She was already awake, but the evil spirit's eyes were still shining brightly. It was like a group of dogs looking at a piece of fat meat. Chen, can Pamela deal with it alone? Probably. The other wailing banshee I know can do it. Of course, that wailing banshee is stronger than Pamela now. After a short silence, hundreds of evil spirits charged at Pamela. Suddenly, Pamela shrieked. Her voice was like a huge wave of terror, rushing in all directions. All the glass windows in the headquarters shattered in an instant. That sound was too impactful. Everything shattered in an instant. Even though Pamela wasn't targeting the members of the union, everyone still covered their ears. Frowning, Chen Zhao immediately used the small world to block the magical attack. The screech of the banshee had a great impact on the soul. To put it bluntly, the banshee's attack was a high-frequency sound mixed with magic. Although the principle was simple, only a banshee could produce such a high-frequency sound. However, this kind of long-range attack without any substance was exactly the kind of attack that the small world could restrain. Only then did everyone feel much better. As for the invading evil spirits, they didn't have his protection. And they were facing Pamela's scream head-on. In an instant, hundreds of evil spirits were crushed. That scene was too shocking. Everything was torn to shreds. Gage's face was full of shock. Was the supernatural organization really the cowardly organization that my friend had mentioned? Everyone here was extremely powerful, and every one of them could take charge of an area by themselves. Even the weakest Adus dared to participate in the battle himself. Even though he couldn't be of much use, his courage was praiseworthy. However, these powerful spiritualists weren't leaders. This Asian was a leader. Gage couldn't understand this. In Gage's opinion, the strongest should be the leader. Or maybe this man was a strategist. He was the president mainly because he could manage. Gage guessed in his heart. However, after seeing the supernatural organization's power, he was interested too. Perhaps joining the supernatural organization was a good choice. He could also grow by interacting with them. Henry, ask your people to repair the headquarters tomorrow. Yes, President. West, arrange the new people's living arrangements and entry procedures. Yes, President. Also, call Dongye Tianxi over tomorrow. We've solved his problem. He should fulfill his promise. Understood. Okay, I'm going back. The next day, Chen Zhao wanted to relax and spend time with Fei Lai and Zhirlin. However, he was interrupted by West's call. President, are you free now? Can you come to the headquarters? What's up? Dongye Tianxi and Genkira are fighting. Genkira. The new person from yesterday, right? How did she fight with Dongye Tianxi? Genkira doesn't just have the berserker bloodline. She's also a blacksmith and has the forging skills passed down from her ancestors, West said. You should come to the headquarters first. It's hard to explain over the phone. Okay, I'll come now. Chen Zhao thought that it was just a quarrel between two people in the same profession. However, when he arrived at the headquarters, he saw Dongye Tianqi and Genkira slashing at each other with their own weapons. Chen Zhao had seen Genkira's power. He wouldn't dare to say that he was unrivaled, but he was many times stronger than a regular person. However, Dongye Tianqi was using a samurai sword and was also very strong. The two were actually evenly matched. Seeing that the two couldn't decide the winner, Chen Zhao looked at West. West wasn't in a hurry either. He stood at the side with his coffee and savored it carefully. West, how long have they been fighting? Half an hour. Why did they fight? Previously, I called Dongye Tianqi over and we had a good talk. Dongye Tianqi only made one request, which was to have a smithing workshop. In the end, Genkira heard it, and Genkira also wanted a smithing workshop. Over time, they started by ridiculing each other, and then they started to say that the other party's smithing skills were mediocre. Then it's just a competition of forging skills and whose weapons and equipment are better. Is there a need to fight like this? Chapter 1206. Just then, Gaia arrived. Beside Gaia was a little boy. He should be Gaia's child. However, Chen Zhao was surprised that Gaia would bring the child here. As for the fight between Dongye Tianqi and Gatella, no one cared anymore. The people at the entrance of the headquarters all gathered around Gaia and the boy. The 5-year-old boy looked very shy. Handsome, what's your name? Rupert walked up and looked down at the boy. Evans, you should introduce yourself, Gaia said in a gentle tone while patting the boy's shoulder. The boy poked his head out from behind Gaia. Somewhat afraid, he asked, Mom, are you going to put me in the orphanage? Everyone was stunned. The boy seemed to think that Gaia didn't want him anymore. No, Mom will always love you. No one can make you leave me, except your future wife. No one had ever seen such a gentle Gaia. Morid was like a gangster and still had a mohawk hairstyle, but his bad habits had been corrected under Chen Zhao's pressure. Morid walked up and threw a seed in front of Evans. Immediately, a persimmon tree grew from the ground, covered in golden persimmons. Little guy, do you want one? Evans looked at Morid in shock. No one expected Morid to know how to coax a kid. Their impression of Morid was still in the past. After all, he'd been a gangster before. However, after Chen Zhao became the president of the association, he'd gone to Morid's group and hung Morid's friends and himself on the outer wall of the building, forcing Morid to cut ties with them. Only then did Morid stop thinking and stay in the headquarters obediently. Can I have one? Of course. Dongye Tianqi and Gatella's pride was hurt. Actually, they were a bit tired after fighting for so long. When they saw Chen Zhao, they'd wanted to stop. They'd been waiting for Chen Zhao to stop so that he could judge them. But Chen Zhao had no intention of stopping them at all. Especially after Gaia and Evans arrived, everyone's attention had shifted away from them. This hurt their self-esteem even more. They felt like they were monkeys in a circus, and there was no audience at all. Not long after, Evans was attracted by everyone's enthusiasm and friendliness, and everyone played some small spells for Evans. Chen Zhao and Gaia sat on a nearby bench. Gaia, why did you bring Evans here? Chen Zhao asked. Take a look at this. Gaia took out a few pieces of children's doodles, which were obviously Evans's work. However, these creations looked very strange. Because these graffiti made people feel very uncomfortable. That's right, he felt uncomfortable. This was not an abstract painting. It was more like something weird and terrifying had been attached to it. Have you asked Evans? Yes, he said he saw someone following him. His kindergarten teacher also called me and said that Evans seems to be hysterical. He always reports to the teacher that someone is following him. I can't be sure, so I brought him here. You or someone else can take a look. Maybe you guys can give me an answer. He could understand Gaia's uneasiness and worry. If this happened to Jerlin, Chen Zhao would also feel uneasy and worried. As parents, everyone felt the same way. Usually, when he brought Jerlin to the supermarket, if a stranger looked at her too much, Chen Zhao would glare back. How about this? Chen Zhao said. Before we get to the bottom of this, we'll leave Evans in the headquarters. There are many people there. If there's really something unclean, it won't break in. Also, I'll make an amulet for Evans. Recently, Chen Zhao had been studying how to make amulets. There were many amulet-making methods in the Qingyi sect's records. Li Qing's amulet was better than Chen Zhao's. However, Chen Zhao did not want to trouble Li Qing. This was because Li Qing's cultivation was slightly weak, and she was old. She had made amulets for Chen Zhao and Ethan, but she had injured herself first. So, Chen Zhao really did not have the courage to ask Li Qing to make another amulet. Jolig, take Evans to the mana testing room and do a full body check on him, Jolig said. Just then, Gakira and Dongye Tianqi stopped fighting. They both came before Chen Zhao. Chen San, please judge for me. You should call me president now, Chen Zhao said. Actually, Chen Zhao did not care what people called him. But right now, they both had to do the justice himself. Dongye Tianqi's way of addressing him would subtly get closer to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao hoped to maintain his dignity and fairness before the two rookies. I haven't joined the organization yet. If they can't give me a satisfactory explanation, then I refuse to join. Dongye Tianqi felt that since Chen Zhao and West had interacted with him many times, they must have acknowledged his skills. He believed in his value. The supernatural organization would definitely not give up on him. Unfortunately, he was facing Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao stood up and looked down at Dongye Tianqi. Mr. Dongye Tianqi, you seem to have forgotten your promise. We'll help you deal with Devil Blade and Ghost King, and you won't make any requests to join the supernatural organization. Now, you're going to break your promise. Do you think that I, or the supernatural organization, can let you come and go as you please? Or could it be that you're just using us? Dongye Tianqi suddenly felt immense pressure. The people around him did not feel anything except for Dongye Tianqi. He felt as if something was pressing down on him. Even the air became extremely heavy. Chen Zhao's unreasonable attitude directly messed up Dongye Tianqi's thoughts. He did not expect Chen Zhao to be so tough. Chen Zhao was also threatening him with what he'd said before. Instantly, Dongye Tianqi lost his composure. He hurriedly said, Chen San, no, President, you've misunderstood. That's not what I meant. I just hope that you can treat me fairly. But you admit that I'm the president, Chen Zhao said coolly. This is a good start. I hate being used, and I hate people breaking their promises even more. Now, if you have any conflicts, just say it. This guy was not strong, but his management and methods were impressive. Chapter 1207. Genkira looked down on Chen Zhao. However, Chen Zhao had enough prestige in the association. Everyone was willing to accept Chen Zhao's management and restrictions. This meant that Chen Zhao was good enough. Genkira didn't plan on challenging Chen Zhao's authority. President, do you think my request is too much? You know how to forge weapons? Magic weapons? Yes. Dongye Tianqi, you're in the wrong. There are more women in the association than men. Your blatant discrimination against women is very unacceptable. Chen Zhao turned his head and looked at Dongye Tianqi. President, I'm not discriminating against women, Dong Ye Tianqi immediately said. Dong Ye Tianqi said immediately. If he did not explain himself properly after being accused by Qin Zhao, how could he continue working here in the future? I think that some jobs should be differentiated between men and women. I don't think a woman can forge a good weapon. Dong Ye Tianqi was actually like most Japanese. He was a straight man or a male chauvinist. Or perhaps it could be called male chauvinism. Perhaps this idea of his could find supporters in Japan. However, this wasn't Japan. Chen Zhao couldn't support this idea no matter what. After all, there were more women than men in the association. You think I'm not as good as you? Then let's compete. We'll compete in our most professional fields. Whoever loses will be the other's disciple. Do you dare? Genkira was infuriated. Actually, if Genkira hadn't said this, Chen Zhao was going to support her and ask Dong Ye Tianqi to apologize. Because no matter how good Genkira's forging was, Dong Ye Tianqi's words were very offensive to women. However, Genkira had started this bet herself. What else could Chen Zhao say? Let's compete. If I lose, I'll commit seppuku. Chen Zhao was shocked. This was the most perverted Japanese custom. Chen Zhao respected other people's customs, but he really couldn't stand it in his own territory. If a warrior lost, they would commit seppuku. Circumcision was a very, very painful thing because the victim would not die immediately after being circumcised. Therefore, people who committed seppuku often couldn't complete the process themselves. At this time, there would be a designated executioner. This executioner was called jiakuo. He would wait for the person who was about to perform a disembowelment to be unable to continue. Then, jiakuo would stand behind and chop off the person's head. A competition is a competition, Chen Zhao said coldly. I hope that every member of the association has the courage to take responsibility. If anyone loses, they have to follow the agreement and become the other party's disciple. You can't run away by cutting your abdomen. Chen Zhao didn't want Dong Ye Tianqi to ruin the atmosphere of the association. If he won and forced Gengora to perform a disembowelment, what would that mean? If he lost, he would happily commit seppuku. How was he going to behave in the society in the future? Besides, Dong Ye Tianqi still had a wife and daughter. Coming to the supernatural organization, and then going home to commit seppuku, how unfair would that be to his wife and child? If Dong Ye Tianqi wanted to use cruel methods to deal with his enemies, he would not hesitate. Chen Zhao wouldn't object to any kind of method. Anyway, Chen Zhao had done a lot of perverted tortures and killings. He often did things that disgusted him. But he couldn't accept suicide. Yes, President. I'll do that, but I won't lose. But I won't take her as my disciple either. My disciple doesn't need a woman. Chen Zhao covered his head. He already regretted recruiting this iron-willed man. If he'd known, he would have chased him away. How do you guys plan on competing? Chen Zhao asked. Forging weapons, of course, Gengora said. How about this, Dong Ye Tianqi said. President also needs weapons, so we'll each forge a weapon. Whoever likes the weapon more will be the winner. President, what kind of weapon do you need? Gengora asked. A sword. I want a sword, a heavy sword. The more durable, the better. The hilt must be within the range that a normal person can hold with one hand. Within this range, the heavier, the better. The more durable and heavy, the better. I don't have a strict requirement for mana conductivity. It's best if you can have it, but if not, I won't force it. The heavy sword Chen Zhao wanted was mainly for close-range combat. When he used it, his main attack method was to coordinate with his speed and strength. Mana wouldn't be poured into the sword, so Chen Zhao didn't need much with or without mana conductivity. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and then said, also, I need 12 light swords. They also have to be durable and have a high requirement for mana conductivity. Chen Zhao wanted 12 light swords to control swords with music, so the higher the mana conductivity, the better. At the same time, he wanted them to be light. Light meant that Chen Zhao could control his music more easily. Actually, compared to the first time, Chen Zhao was already much stronger. He could control more swords now. However, Chen Zhao was more familiar with 12 swords. If he controlled more swords, Chen Zhao's battle rhythm might be messed up. It would be like putting the cart before the horse. Or he could control thousands of swords like Old Turtle, using absolute quantity to make up for quality. If he couldn't reach Old Turtle's level, he'd continue to use 12 swords to fight. When Chen Zhao's quantity increased by leaps and bounds, he would consider practicing more sword riding. President, you asked for a lot. I'm afraid we can't complete it in a short time. Yes, just the materials will take a long time. If you lack any materials, ask West. If the society doesn't have them, we'll try our best to get them for you. If we don't lack materials, we can complete it in about 10 days, Dongye Tianxi estimated. I want the same amount of time, Gatella said. Okay, we'll wait for the 13th. I'll decide who wins and who loses. Chen Zhao looked at West. Go and build 2 workshops. Yes, President. Jolig had just gotten rid of Gen Kira and Dongye Tianxi when he came out with Evans. President, Gaia. How is it? Is there anything strange about Evans? President, Evans is just a normal kid. At least, the society's equipment didn't detect any mana in him. Oh, so there's no problem? Chen Zhao asked. Normally, being able to see things normal people couldn't was mostly due to one's spiritual body. But since it was a normal person's body, they probably couldn't see supernatural things. But this made things more troublesome. Chapter 1208. Hysteria was actually a mental illness too. Mental illnesses had always been the most troublesome for humans. Even Chen Zhao was often helpless when it came to mental illnesses, especially children. This was especially true for children. Children's minds were very active, and because they didn't have a complete worldview, they often made some unrealistic fantasies. However, adults often didn't approve of these fantasies. Children would become autistic or even depressed. Mental illnesses mostly required communication and companionship. Gaia, spend more time with Evans. If you don't have time, let the child stay at the headquarters. Of course, it's fine if he goes to kindergarten with children of the same age. Anyway, he needs company. Try not to let Evans be alone. Also, if Evans says that he saw something, don't deny it, regardless of whether you saw it or not. Chen, is Evans's condition serious? Actually, children's minds are the most active when they're 5 to 10 years old. Their brains start to accept large amounts of knowledge, so it's natural for children to fantasize. After this age, children's psychology will gradually mature and their worldview will become complete. They'll gradually forget those unrealistic fantasies. Both fantasies and hysteria only happen when children are lonely. As long as there's company, they won't think too much. Also, we can't be completely sure that Evans is hysteria. It might be something we don't know yet. Gaia looked at Evans from afar. Evans was playing with Rupert at the moment. Right now, Evans didn't seem to have any problems at all. It wasn't that Evans would definitely develop autism or depression. Actually, hysteria was a common mental illness for children. The best treatment for hysteria was companionship. One couldn't use a forceful attitude to deny or correct it. Children believed that what they saw was the truth, even if it was just their imagination. Do you want to see a psychologist? You can see a psychiatrist, but you can't go to a hospital, that's too obvious. Children are very resistant to hospitals. Once they find out that they're sent to a hospital, they'll be very sensitive to the fact that they're sick. By the way, I know a psychiatrist. She's also involved in some supernatural incidents. I can make an appointment with her and ask her to come to the headquarters to give Evans psychological counseling. I think you can do psychological counseling. Gaia trusted him more. I know this theoretical knowledge. I've been exposed to such topics in school, but I'm not a professional. Professional matters should be left to the professionals. Okay, make an appointment with that psychologist. Gaia had absolute trust in Chen Zhao. I plan to move to the headquarters. After all, Gaia had her own job, and she was willing to give it up for Evans. However, she was more happy to have the best of both worlds. There was definitely no shortage of people in the headquarters, and most of the people in the headquarters were quite optimistic. Even the gloomy Helios was a girl with a soft heart. And the people here are not prejudiced. In addition, the environment here was good, so Gaia was willing to let Evans live here. Even if Evans had to come into contact with some firearms, as long as Evans's physical and mental health could be improved, it didn't matter. In the afternoon, Chen Zhao received a call from Denver, asking him to return to Mountain Town. He had something to discuss. Not only did Denver invite Chen Zhao, but also Dean Slott. When Chen Zhao saw Dean Slott, he took the initiative to congratulate him. Dean, congratulations. You've been recognized by the townspeople again. To be honest, Chen Zhao was not surprised at all that Dean Slott had become the mayor again. It could be seen from the way the new mayor governed Mountain Town that he didn't have any management talent or political ability. It was impossible for him to defeat the old fox, Dean Slott, with such a standard. Even when Dean Slott stirred up trouble in the town, the new mayor did not react in time. By the time he found out, Dean Slott had already chased him out of office. Ha! Chen, you're joking. I have to thank you. Without your support, I wouldn't have been able to stay as mayor for long. Dean Slott had promised to rebuild the brewery in 3 months. If he could not rebuild it in 3 months, he would probably become the shortest mayor in Mountain Town's history. That's why I'm here to talk about rebuilding the brewery. I don't think we have any objections to rebuilding the brewery, right? Dean Slott asked. Indeed. Chen Zhao nodded. At the same time, he glanced at Denver. We just need to discuss some details. Chen, what details do you not understand? The first is the ownership of the brand, Denver said. Chen, do you want to take the old brand for yourself? Not take it for myself. I want to buy it. I hope that there won't be any trademark disputes in the future. You know that trademark disputes are usually caused by multiple owners, so I hope that we can clarify the ownership of the trademark. How much do you want to buy it for? Dean Slott asked. 500,000, Denver said, picking up where Chen left off. That's impossible. The original Mountain Beer's annual turnover is more than $10 million, and the annual profit is also more than $2 million. You want to buy this trademark with just $500,000? That's impossible. Dean Slott's reaction was very strong. Even Chen Zhao felt that Denver's price was too low. But that was how business was. It was like bargaining in a market. One side would ask for a sky-high price, while the other side would bargain. Chen, Mr. Denver, actually, there's nothing wrong with joint ownership of the trademark. You don't have to spend a single cent to own and use the trademark. I can also promise that I won't interfere with the production and operation of the brewery. Denver did not believe this. Chen Zhao would not believe it either. If the trademark was in someone else's hands, it was like their lifeline was in someone else's hands. If the trademark did not increase its value and earn a few $1,000,000 a year, the mountain town government might not take it seriously. But what if the trademark's value increased by 10 times? What if it increased by 100 times? By then, the mountain town government would demand a hefty fee for using the trademark. If the two sides could not reach an agreement, even if Mountain Town only owned 50% of the trademark, they could still force the brewery to stop production. The trademark could only be sold with 100% rights. Chapter 1209. In the end, Chen Zhao bought the trademark for $2.5 million. Usually, the value of a trademark was around 10 times the annual profit of the trademark. However, Mountain Beer's brand value had already dropped greatly because it had left the market. So, $2.5 million was within a range that both sides could accept. Then, Chen Zhao and Denver were most concerned about the ownership of the land needed to build the factory. First, the production needed water. Then, it needed water from Mirror Lake. So, it couldn't be too far from Mirror Lake. Otherwise, if it was built on Chen Zhao's private land, everything would be fine. But Chen Zhao also didn't want to build a factory on his private land. Although the brewery wouldn't have any pollution problems, Chen Zhao still didn't like it. So, Chen Zhao was more inclined to buy a piece of land near his private land. The land didn't need to be too big. 20 hectares was enough. The difference in land wasn't that big. Of course, Dion Slot wanted to just rent the land. Or exchange the land for a certain share of the brewery's profits. Chen Zhao and Denver, on the other hand, wanted to buy the land directly. Only when everything belonged to Chen Zhao would he be able to make the final decision. Although the mountain town government wouldn't make things difficult for the brewery if they rented the land, there was still a certain risk. If they had a falling out in the future, the government would take back the land. Then, the brewery would definitely have to move, which would affect production or even stop production. In the end, the value of the brand would be affected. Chen Zhao was someone who liked to have everything in his hands. He was no longer the person who had just come to America and wandered around. He had the power to control everything now. Of course, Chen Zhao would only touch the things and fields that he could control. For example, doing business. Chen Zhao knew that he wasn't cut out for it. So, he wouldn't interfere with the brewery's production and management. Nevertheless, Chen Zhao was sure that the brewery could make money. This was why Chen Zhao had entered this industry. Chen Zhao wasn't that great. He wasn't doing this for the people of Mountain Town. At the end of the day, Chen Zhao's goal was simple: to make money. In the end, Chen Zhao bought a piece of barren land 15 kilometers west of Mirror Lake instead of the brewery's original location. Dion was willing to sell the land to Chen Zhao at a low price, but Chen Zhao had to agree to some conditions. For example, within 3 years of the brewery's opening, more than 70% of the employees must be residents of Mountain Town, and the minimum salary must be less than $600 per week. For an ordinary worker, a weekly salary of $600 was considered a normal salary. However, this was only for ordinary employees. The salaries of some technical workers and management personnel were definitely higher than this level. Dion Slot's request was not only to provide jobs for the town's residents, but also to allow the mountain town's employees to infiltrate the management. This was the only way to control the production and operation of the brewery. As for this, Chen Zhao believed that Denver could handle it. After Dean Slot left, Chen Zhao and Denver discussed again. Chen Zhao realized that if he wanted to achieve something in the first year, he needed to produce at least 100,000 tons. It wasn't a small fight like Chen Zhao had originally planned. In this case, the investment required was very large. To ensure that they did not make a loss in the first year, they would need at least $30 million. This was far more than what Chen Zhao had initially expected. He didn't lack money now. Even if he ran out of money, the bank would be happy to lend him money. This was because Chen Zhao had a lot of high-quality assets. However, the investment of $30 million still exceeded Chen Zhao's initial expectations. Chen Zhao's original plan was to build 2 beer production lines and produce around 20,000 tons per year. However, Denver's plan was to expand the scale of production. The result of expanding the scale of production was, of course, more investment. This wasn't something that could be solved with just a few more production lines. The corresponding facilities also needed to be expanded, such as the fermenter area, the sewage treatment facilities, the storage warehouse, and so on. They all needed to be expanded. The number of employees also needed to be greatly increased. Denver, after the $30 million, I don't need to invest anymore. Chen Zhao asked. Mr. Chen, in principle, you don't need to invest anymore. If you need more, we can get a loan from the bank. I don't like loans. President, you've made a mistake. Taking a loan is actually more cost-effective than taking out money from your personal account. The interest on such a huge loan is usually not very high. In a situation where the income is equal, the bank's interest rate will be much lower than the rate at which your money depreciates if you leave it in the bank. Secondly, after you take a loan from the bank, your interests will be linked to the bank. When you deal with a lot of problems, the bank will help you. For example, if you put pressure on the local government or even the Los Angeles government, the bank will take the initiative to help you. Also, if you contact the seller, the bank will help you as much as possible. Most people's understanding was that the bank was a place to store money. In reality, it wasn't like that. The biggest function of the bank wasn't to store money. The bank was a very complicated business system. They were involved in any industry that could make money. The bank would even own shares in many industries through the mortgage of the borrower. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and said, I said that you'll be in charge of the brewery's production and I won't interfere. If you think that the loan is beneficial to the brewery's development, then we'll do as you say. Denver nodded. He also liked working with a boss like Chen Zhao. For managers, they weren't afraid of ignorant investors. They were afraid of investors who were too controlling. Investors only wanted profits. They didn't need to have an absolute understanding of an industry. However, if they interfered with the manager's arrangements without understanding, they might disrupt the original development process and rhythm. Also, we need to start building the brewery as soon as possible, Denver said. Chen Zhao nodded. I'll contact the construction company as soon as possible. After saying goodbye in Denver, Chen Zhao called Felwood Cisco. Mr. Felwood, can your company take on another project now? Felwood was still supervising the construction at Chen Zhao's private beach construction site. When he heard Chen Zhao's first sentence, he was dumbfounded. Was this rich guy planning to build something again? I'm planning to invest in a new brewery. The construction will cost around $10 million. Can your company take on this project? Yes, it can. Felwood suppressed his ecstasy. When are you free? Let's talk face to face. He wanted to hug Chen Zhao and give him a big kiss. To him, Chen Zhao was his god of fortune. How about this? I'll go to the beach construction site tomorrow. I want to see how it's going. Chapter 12:10. The next day, Chen Zhao went to the beach construction site. When Chen Zhao arrived at the construction site, the workers all greeted him. In America, construction workers were all high-income people. Their annual salary ranged from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even a normal worker could get an annual salary of $70,000 to $80,000. Hearing that Qin Zhao was here, Felwood hurried out of the construction site to welcome him. Mr. Qin, you're here. To Felwood, Qin Zhao was a true god of fortune. Qin Zhao had given him all the big projects that his company was currently working on. Now, another project was delivered to his door. How could he not like Qin Zhao? Qin Zhao stood on the beach and looked at the cliff in the distance. The flat top of the cliff had been cut off and a large portion had been excavated. Because Qin Zhao wanted a villa, he had to excavate a large portion of the cliff's rock stratum. However, he hadn't started construction yet. He'd only completed the foundation. He also had to pave the road and clean the beach. Felwood kept explaining the progress of the project to Qin Zhao. By the way, Mr. Qin, don't you think we should give this beach a new name? Let's call it Moon Beach, Qin Zhao said casually. Qin Zhao really didn't have much talent in naming. This was the only name that popped up in his mind. He might as well use it. After that, Qin Zhao and Felwood discussed the construction of the new brewery. Felwood wanted to continue working with Qin Zhao. Thus, Felwood Cisco gave Qin Zhao a good price for the beer factory. Basically, he didn't make much money. Of course, a project didn't make any money on the surface. There were no direct benefits, but there were still some benefits. For example, some architects and engineers designed and built famous skyscrapers not only for actual income, but also for fame. Then, Qin Zhao gave Denver's contact information to Felwood. Mr. Felwood, go do your work. I'll walk around by myself. Okay, then I won't keep you company. Qin Zhao wandered around Bright Moon Beach alone. He was looking forward to his new home. Just then, he received a call from Dell. Hey, Qin, are you free? What? Master wants you to come over. Master. Oh, are you at Sister Qing's place? Yes, I'm at the motel. Alright, I'll head over now. When Qin Zhao arrived at the motel, Ethan was crossing his legs. Seeing Qin Zhao, he pointed behind him. Behind. Let's talk later. With that, he went to the back of the motel. When Qin Zhao went to the backyard, he saw Dell holding a long sword and standing in a pine pose. Li Qing stood at the side. Qin Zhao went up to greet her. Sister Qing. Mr. Qin, you're here. Auntie Qing, I heard from Dell that you called me. What's up? Dell learned the demon-piercing finger. It's a small spell that can subdue demons. My request to him is to be able to see through your green clothes cloud. Mr. Qin, you don't mind, do you? I don't mind. Dell walked up to Qin Zhao. Qin, don't underestimate me. I can pierce wood with a finger now. Qin Zhao nodded. You can try it on me now. Qin, I'm serious. Don't be careless. I'm not careless. Go ahead, Qin Zhao said as he activated the green clothes cloud. The green clothes cloud used magic as its source. Normal people couldn't see it, but Dell was a warlock now, so he could see a green barrier covering Qin Zhao's body. Master, when can I learn the green clothes cloud? You can learn it whenever you want, but whether you can master it or not is another matter. Li Qing only hoped for a successor now. Even though Dell's talent was mediocre, she still taught him carefully. Li Qing didn't have the same rules as before. She didn't have to hold back when she taught a disciple, causing it to be lost in the end. Also, no matter if it was a domestic sect or a foreign master-disciple inheritance, they all had a common characteristic. When a master taught a disciple, he would randomly label the disciple. If the disciple killed a bug, the disciple might be seen as violent. To put it bluntly, the master just didn't like the disciple. Could stomping a bug to death prove that he was a cruel person? This caused many disciples to go down the wrong path because of the master's prejudice. To put it bluntly, it was the master's own prejudice. As for Li Qing, the green clothes sect was about to be destroyed. If she still stuck to the old rules, she'd probably bring the green clothes sect's inheritance to her grave. Chen, be careful. Del had tried the magic piercing fingers power. Just now, he'd used it to pierce through a small tree. Right now, his fingertips glowed with green light. Chen Zhao could feel the faint magic power on Del. Chen Zhao estimated Del's magic. It should be around 20 to 30. This amount of mana was already very weak. Using the magic piercing finger was also difficult. Del said, "I'm coming." With that, he suddenly pointed at Chen Zhao's chest. Crack, Del's finger was broken. Ah! Del clutched his finger and howled in pain. Chen, why is your chest so hard? It's because you haven't mastered the magic piercing finger. Li Qing shook her head. Del's magic piercing finger didn't even cause a ripple in Chen Zhao's chingy mist. It was obvious how weak it was. The three sat to the side and Chen Zhao straightened Del's bones. Master, can Chen's chingy mist stop bullets? That depends on your magic. Even if you can learn chingy mist now, you can only barely stop bullets. You can't completely block bullets. Mr. Chen should be able to block bullets. Li Qing's eyes were very accurate. Indeed, when Chen Zhao first learned chingy mist, he couldn't completely block bullets either. But now, Chen Zhao's body was strong enough. Even without the chingy armor, he could block bullets with his body alone. Master, the hotel opens tomorrow. Are you coming? Del asked. No, I still have work, Li Qing said. Li Qing said, this 8 trigrams mirror is my gift to you. Hang it at the front door of the hotel. Thank you, Master. Del looked at Chen Zhao. Chen, I don't need to invite you. I told you last time. Chapter 12:11. Del didn't know much about Chen Zhao's strength. Li Qing, on the other hand, knew something about him. But she didn't know that Chen Zhao had already reached Shangqing, which was clear heaven and earth. Even with her understanding of Chen Zhao in the past, Del couldn't compare to the ultimate transformation plane. Del's talent was average. It would be good if he could learn a few spells. Plus, Li Qing was old and didn't have as much energy as young people, so she could only teach Del. If Del wanted to continue cultivating in the future, he would have to rely on Chen Zhao's guidance. The next day, Chen Zhao arrived at the hotel that Del and Risvar had opened early in the morning. But he wasn't here for the opening ceremony. He was really not interested in this kind of ceremony. He was here to help Del see if there was anything wrong with the hotel. After cleaning last time, there were no more problems with the hotel. Chen Zhao was mainly here to reassure Del. In the past, Del had been suspicious about the strange powers and gods. But now, he was a warlock. Of course, in the West, he was called a wizard. At noon, the hotel was filled with guests. Del and Risvar didn't have time to accompany Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't have anything to do here, so he sat on the rooftop. There was a huge swimming pool and bar on the rooftop. Today was the opening ceremony, but the rooftop wasn't open. Chen Zhao still liked the air here. The banquet restaurant below was filled with people. Chen Zhao really didn't like that atmosphere. Del and Risvar didn't invite all upper-class guests. There were also some opportunists. Chen Zhao went inside to get a glass of wine and stood there for 3 minutes. 2 groups of people came over to test Chen Zhao's identity or ask for investments. Chen Zhao was speechless. After knowing that Chen Zhao was just an ordinary employee here, they immediately changed their attitude. The environment was too uncomfortable. The only people Chen Zhao knew, Del and Risvar, couldn't stay with him forever. The sea breeze blew from the south to the north. It was very convincing. One had to admit that after the change in the environment, the air became fresher. As long as there were no problems with the management, Chen Zhao was sure that business would be booming and money would come in. Just then, a woman came up to the rooftop. She was dressed in black business attire and had her hair in a ponytail. She was tall and slender, and she was wearing sky-high heels. She was holding a walkie-talkie in her hand. When the woman saw someone by the pool, she was stunned for a moment. Then he strode to Chen Zhao's side. "Sir, this place is not open yet. Please leave." Lying on the sun lounger, Chen Zhao moved his sunglasses up slightly and glanced at the woman. "I'm not a guest here. That's the staff here. Hundreds of people in the hotel are busy, and you came here to slack off. Which department are you from? Who's your superior? I'm not an employee here either. Are you trying to tell me that you're a guest here?" "Sir, the hotel hasn't officially opened yet, so we don't have any guests. If you can't tell me who you are, I can only call security. You better inform your two bosses first." "Oh, give me a glass of whiskey." "Thanks." Chen Zhao yawned lazily. When the house in Bright Moon Beach was built, he would be able to enjoy the sea breeze every day. The woman looked at Chen Zhao with sparkling eyes, somewhat hesitant. She wasn't sure of Chen Zhao's identity. If he was a guest invited by her two bosses, shouldn't he be in the banquet hall now? But she didn't have Del and Risvar's contact information. She was only the hotel's customer service manager, not the general manager. There were still a few big shots above her. Plus, if Chen Zhao was really Del and Risvar's friend, she might offend Chen Zhao because of this. "Okay, sir. There are still many facilities that aren't open yet. I hope you won't wander around." With that, the woman turned and left. As the customer service manager of a super 5-star hotel, Molly knew how to control herself. Otherwise, she wouldn't have gotten this job. The hotel wasn't open yet, but it was very busy today. There were many things that she had to deal with. She didn't have time to waste with Chen Zhao here. "Miss Molly, there are two people in the lobby. They say that they're hotel guests." "Hotel guests?" Molly was confused. "I'll come down now." Molly hurried downstairs. She saw a beautiful pregnant woman with a cute girl in her arms. "Hello, Mississippi." Molly walked over. "How can I help you?" "Your boss invited me here. He told me to stay here for a few days and experience it." "So it's a guest experience." Molly immediately understood. After the hotel opened, they couldn't let the guests stay immediately. There had to be an experience period, the hotel experience and service experience. Usually, the guest experience was the hotel boss's friend. "Okay, please wait a moment," Molly said. "Can I use your driver's license?" "Of course." Molly found it quickly, but she also found information about other residents who were experiencing it. The Asian was also a guest experience. No wonder, Molly thought to herself. That Asian seems to be living with them. They should be husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend. "Excuse me, is this Mr. Chen Zhao Feilai's? He's my boyfriend." "Is he in the hotel now?" "Yes, he's on the rooftop." "Okay, thank you." After Feilai checked in, Molly had the waiter bring Feilai's luggage upstairs. Feilai brought little Jerlin to the top floor. "Chen, you're too relaxed." Feilai looked at Chen Zhao, who was lying beside the pool. "Didn't you say you were going to check Del and Johnny's problems? Is this how you're helping?" Chen Zhao sat up and looked at Feilai. "There's no problems. You can't let me keep wandering around, right?" Dad. Jerlin had already pounced on Qin Zhao and sat on his stomach. Actually, Dell wanted Qin Zhao's family to experience for a few days so that Qin Zhao could stay in the hotel. There were always some hidden things that might not appear immediately. If something went wrong after Qin Zhao's inspection and they had to find Qin Zhao, it would be even more troublesome. So, it was better to let Qin Zhao stay for a few more days. If something went wrong, Qin Zhao could solve it immediately. Qin Zhao didn't care. He could eat and stay for free for a few days and get high-quality service. Why not? At night, the waiter pushed a sumptuous dinner to their suite. Qin Zhao and Fei Lai enjoyed a candlelit dinner. Just as they were about to rest, Qin Zhao's call came. Qin Zhao looked at his phone. It was Lit Grove. He looked at the time. It was 11 p.m. Chapter 12:12. After hesitating for a long time, Qin Zhao finally picked up the phone. Teacher. Ritter Grove seemed a bit scared. What's wrong? I got a corpse today, Ritter Grove said. Get to the point. This corpse is a bit strange. I'm not sure if he's dead or not. I'm not even sure if he's human. You're in the hospital now. Yes. I'll go over now. Qin Zhao hurried to Chantilly Hospital. Silently, he arrived outside the morgue. Teacher. Seeing Qin Zhao, Ritter Grove heaved a sigh of relief. Take me to the corpse. Ritter Grove brought Qin Zhao into the morgue. He stopped before a freezer and pulled it open. There was a corpse inside, but there didn't seem to be anything special about it. Qin Zhao looked at Ritter Grove in confusion. Is there anything special about this corpse? Ritter Grove didn't speak. He just looked at the corpse. Suddenly, the corpse's face changed. It was like a flash of an image. The corpse was still a corpse. In that instant, Qin Zhao saw the corpse's face turn into an unfamiliar, twisted face. This. Qin Zhao furrowed his brows in deep thought. What is this? Who is he? Or is he even human? And is he dead? Teacher, do you know what's going on? What's his identity? Ritter Grove took out the registration form and handed it to Qin Zhao. Thomas Bailey, postman. Time of death is 5:20 in the afternoon. The cause of death is a car accident. He died after being sent to the hospital. Just then, there was a commotion outside. It seemed like someone had come, and there were quite a few of them. Then, the door to the morgue opened. I don't care. I want to see my husband. I don't believe it. I don't believe he's dead. Qin Zhao looked. The woman who was screaming at the top of her lungs seemed to be the customer service manager from the hotel today. Molly wiped her tears as she walked into the morgue. Beside her were the nurses from the hospital. They were all trying to persuade Molly. When they saw Qin Zhao and Ritter Grove in the morgue, they were all stunned. When Emily saw her husband's body, she immediately cried and rushed over. Bailey, how could you do this? How could you abandon me like this? Molly hit her husband's chest and cried her heart out. Suddenly, Thomas Bailey's hand moved. Qin Zhao frowned. Molly suddenly shivered. Bailey? You're not dead. You're not dead, are you? Who? At this moment, everyone heard Thomas Bailey's long exhale. Doctor, quick, quick, Bailey's not dead, he's not dead, please save him. A few nurses rushed forward to check. Thomas Bailey was indeed breathing again. They did not dare to delay and quickly dragged Thomas Bailey out of the freezer. Qin Zhao looked at Molly. She seemed to be crying her heart out, but she wasn't as sad as he'd imagined. Thomas Bailey's resurrection was also orchestrated by her. Glancing at Chen Zhao and Lit Grove, Molly wiped away her tears and followed them out of the morgue. Teacher, there's something wrong with that woman. Of course. Wasn't it obvious? Strangely, he didn't feel any magic power from Molly. He didn't even feel that Molly was casting a spell when she slapped the corpse. After emergency treatment, Thomas Bailey's life was no longer in danger and he was sent to the ICU. Molly stood beside Thomas Bailey's bed and gently tidied up his hair. Bailey, how do you feel now? Not good. Not good at all, Thomas Bailey said weakly. How did this happen? How did you get into a car accident? I was found by my own kind, Thomas Bailey said. Same kind. You have the same kind. Yes, that's why I left a third of my life essence with you. I had a feeling that they would come for me, Thomas Bailey said. Get me out of the hospital now. I faked my death and escaped their pursuit, but they'll find out sooner or later that I'm not dead. They'll come again then. I can't stay here. But where are we going? Not us. Molly, following me won't do you any good. You shouldn't get involved in this conflict. Bailey, I love you. I don't care about the danger. Take me away. Molly, you don't understand. Molly knew his identity. Of course, she only knew the gist of it. She knew that he was an alien, but she did not know that he was actually a demon that humans feared. They'd known each other for 3 years and been married for more than a year. If possible, Thomas Bailey only hoped that he could spend the rest of his life with Molly. But what he feared the most had finally happened. They were here. His own kind. I only know that I love you. Molly bit her lower lip and stared at Thomas Bailey with deep love. Thomas Bailey also stared at Molly. I'm a demon. Thomas Bailey said. I'm a demon that goes against God and the legends. Molly's face was pale. She stared at Thomas Bailey. After a long while, Molly's eyes became determined. I don't care. I only know that you're my husband. Let's go now and leave this place forever. Molly helped Thomas Bailey up and put him in the wheelchair. When she pushed Thomas out of the ICU, she saw Chen Zhao and Little Grove standing there. Molly left in another direction, pushing Thomas Bailey away in a hurry. Teacher, should we chase after them? Of course. I need to know what happened, Chen Zhao said. That man is clearly not an ordinary person. This is my territory. I want to know the real reason for his injury and his identity. Molly got into the car with her husband. Her mind was in a mess. She was actually very anxious. After all, she was just an ordinary woman. She was just a woman who married a demon. That was all. From the day they got married, Thomas Bailey had told her that he was not human. Molly was still determined to choose Thomas Bailey. She had also wondered if it was worth it. But women were always so blind when it came to love. Molly, where are we going? Chapter 12-13. Molly suddenly realized that there was a car following them. It's that Asian. Molly saw the 2 people in the convertible through the rearview mirror. Bailey, look at the convertible behind us. The Asian who was following us was already there when you entered the morgue, and now he's following us again. Is he also a demon? Thomas Bailey glanced at the rearview mirror. We can't tell like this. We escaped from the seal. Some demons have been hiding for hundreds of years. They're more human than humans. We'll only know if they're a demon when they reveal their power. Thomas Bailey said again, Molly, put me down. Let me talk to him. No, you're too weak now. You'll be killed again. But we can't escape. You understand, Thomas Bailey said. You shouldn't be involved in this. Can't we reason with them? Or we can give them money. I have money. Whether it's me or my kind, we never want money, Thomas Bailey said. Thomas Bailey said, what those commanders are after is to resurrect our master. Master? You have a master. A great demon that ravaged Europe for 1,000 years. I was once a human, Thomas Bailey said. Kans Mosa pretended to be our lord and turned us into demons. He cast a spell on us to make us loyal to him. On the first day we were turned into demons, he gave us our first order. Thomas Bailey's body was trembling slightly. Molly turned to look at him. What was the first order he gave? Killing our family with my own hands. Thomas Bailey was already crying. My wife, and my child, I killed them with my own hands. Molly opened her mouth. She realized that she couldn't say anything to comfort him. There was nothing more painful than killing the people you loved with your own hands. Then, how did you break free from his control? I never broke free from his control, Thomas Bailey said. Thomas Bailey said, even though he was sealed, his voice still echoed in my mind until we were also sealed. When I woke up from the seal again, that voice gradually disappeared. I woke up a few decades ago, and only after a long time did I realize that 1,000 years had passed. Later, I met someone of the same kind, and that person told me that because of the time of awakening, the effects of Kong Mosa were different. The later the demon awakened, the smaller the effect, and some demons who awakened very early were already planning to resurrect Kong Mosa. If a person could kill that great demon 1,000 years ago, they can do it now. It's impossible. Thomas Bailey shook his head. 1,000 years ago, there were powerful witches and priests everywhere in Europe. But now, there are very few spiritualists who can be considered powerful. Now, why are your kind looking for you? They seem to have found Kans Mosa's soul, Thomas Bailey said. They plan to gather the former demon army to take back Kans Mosa's soul and resurrect him. I refused, so they attacked me. By then, their car had already reached the coastal road. But then, their car broke down. Molly started the engine anxiously, but the car wouldn't start. Damn, I should have thrown this stupid car away long ago. Just then, the convertible behind them stopped as well. Molly, don't get out. No matter what happens, don't come out. Thomas Bailey dragged his weak body out of the car and walked toward Qinzhao and Little Grove. Qinzhao and Little Grove also got out of the car. Thomas Bailey looked at the two of them. He wanted to tell if they were the same kind as him. Qinzhao was also studying Thomas Bailey. Aren't you going to introduce yourself? Qinzhao asked. Just as Thomas Bailey was about to speak, his gaze was suddenly attracted by something behind Qinzhao. A blinding light shone on the people standing by the road. Qinzhao also turned his head, but he couldn't see anything because of the blinding light. By the time he could see clearly, a huge force had already hit him. Boom! Qinzhao was sent flying and then rolled on the ground a few times. A large truck stopped in front of them. The truck was emitting a thick black aura. A figure got out of the truck. Thomas Bailey saw the person and felt like he was facing a great enemy. She had a graceful figure with waist-length hair and was dressed in tight clothes. Candolan, why won't you let me go? I'm already like this. Let you go. Traitors should be punished. You failed to live up to your master's expectations, so you should be punished. Candolan pulled out a pair of red daggers from his back. I was tricked the first time, but it won't happen again. You must die. Just then, Qinzhao, who'd been sent flying, stood up again. It hurts a lot. Why did you hit me with the car? Qinzhao rubbed his forehead. Teacher, are you okay? Ritter Grove hurriedly ran over and asked in concern. Candolin and Thomas Bailey both stared at Qin Zhao in shock. Qin Zhao hadn't died from such a crash. Human, you're not dead? Candolin asked in surprise. Human. So you're not human? Qin Zhao looked at Candolin. To be honest, even Qin Zhao couldn't see anything strange about Candolin. Candolin grinned. Her face suddenly turned into a red-faced demon with a pair of demon horns that curved like a goat's. What do you think? Demon. Qin Zhao narrowed his eyes and looked at Thomas Bailey. You're a demon too. Since you're not one of us, you better run now, Thomas Bailey said. She's a demon of torture. If you fall into her hands, you might not even have a chance to die. Really? I'm quite experienced in this area. How about we exchange some ideas? Demon of torture. You want me to exchange ideas with you? Suddenly, Candolin's voice came from behind Qin Zhao. Qin Zhao's neck tightened. Candolin's long hair had curled around his neck. Chapter 12-14. It definitely didn't feel good to have a mouthful of hair stuffed into his mouth. Moreover, the hair was still digging into his throat. Qin Zhao was furious. He couldn't spit out the hair. Qin Zhao grabbed Candorin's two horns and headbutt. Bang! Candorin was dizzy from Qin Zhao's headbutt. Qin Zhao headbutt again. Qin Zhao pulled out the hair in his mouth and pressed Candorin onto the ground. One punch, and another punch. Qin Zhao didn't kill, but Candorin still couldn't take Qin Zhao's punches. After a few punches, Candorin was already gasping for air. Qin Zhao pulled Candorin's horns and stood up again. Candorin was paralyzed on the ground. If Qin Zhao wasn't still pulling her horns, she would be a piece of rotten meat now. Thomas Bailey was dumbfounded. This female demon was Candorin. She was definitely not weak. But why was she so weak? Suddenly, the large truck that was parked not far away suddenly erupted with terrifying magic power. Thomas Bailey was shocked. He recognized this magic and could even be said to have a deep memory of it. Just then, Candorin slowly opened her eyes. She'd also woken up because of the magic. You're dead. Lord Bustill is angry. Thomas Bailey jumped in fright. Bustier. Bustill, one of the four great commanders. The truck suddenly burst into red flames, and a wild beast came out from inside the truck. It tore the truck apart. Hellfire burned on its body. It had the head of a bull, the body of a tiger, and a pair of wings on its back. Molly, who was hiding in the car, was also shocked. Thomas Bailey turned and charged toward the car. He pulled Molly and was about to escape. But Bustill suddenly jumped and rushed in front of Thomas Bailey and Molly. Thomas Bailey, do you think you can leave without my permission? Thomas and Molly's faces paled. Teacher. Lit Grove was also a little frightened. He'd heard that Qin Zhao had fought some monster or demon before. But this was his first time facing such a terrifying existence. Drive further away, Qin Zhao said. I don't want my car to be damaged in a battle. Ritter Grove wanted to leave the scene immediately. Hearing Qin Zhao's order, he immediately jumped into the car. But before he could start, Bustill jumped again. If he fell, Qin Zhao's car and Lit Grove would die for sure. Teacher. Help. Little Grove shouted. Fuck off. Qin Zhao suddenly sped up. He jumped up and kicked Bustill's stomach. Bustill suffered a heavy blow and smashed into the mountain wall by the side of the road. Don't touch my car, you can't afford it. Lit Grove was speechless. Qin Zhao just wanted to save his car, not himself. Thomas Bailey stared at Qin Zhao in disbelief. Was this guy human? He's fighting with Bustier. Bustil stood up again and shook his head. Roar! Bustil let out an angry roar. His wings fluttered as he rose into the air. How about being my mount? I need a ride right now. Chen Zhao looked at Bustil. This seemed like a good idea. He could fly, but he couldn't fly very high. It would be much more convenient if he had a mount. Lowly human, you think you can? Bustil hovered in the air and looked down at Chen Zhao. Only Lord Kong Mosa has the right to ride me. Forget it if you don't want to. Chen Zhao looked at Bustil. But if I can't have it, no one else can. Bustil suddenly opened his mouth and shot a mouthful of hell flame at Chen Zhao. The dark lava immediately blocked the hell flame. At the same time, Chen Zhao pointed his right arm at Bustil. The energy in the eye of the thunder filled the mouth of Gluttony. Crack! Wild electric arcs pierced through Bustil. Bustil didn't expect Chen Zhao to attack like this. He fell from the sky. However, Chen Zhao's electric attack didn't cause any fatal damage. He stood up again. Of course, Chen Zhao's attack wasn't completely ineffective. Bustil was already injured. Little Grove didn't leave either. He watched the fight between Chen Zhao and Bustil. Although he was afraid, he was more interested in the battle between Chen Zhao and Bustil. In the past, he'd heard from others how Chen Zhao fought against powerful enemies. Today, he was finally lucky enough to witness Chen Zhao's fight. And his opponent was a powerful demon. Thomas Bailey and Molly were stunned by the battle in front of them. Especially Thomas Bailey. He knew very well how terrifying Bustil was. Bustil was one of the 4 leaders of the demon army. He was also Kong Mosa's mount. Back then, Bustil had killed 3 great demonesses and an archbishop. In the great battle 1,000 years ago, Bustil had been deliberately lured away in order to successfully seal Kong Mosa. But now, this man from the east had actually gained the upper hand with his own strength. Human, do you really think you can beat me? Obviously. Chen Zhao shrugged. I'm starting to get serious now. Bustil stared at Chen Zhao. Suddenly, Kandarin, whom Chen Zhao was holding, launched a sneak attack. Her hair curled around Chen Zhao's legs and body. Human, go to hell. At the same time, Bustil also charged at Chen Zhao, his horn stabbing at Chen Zhao. Not good. Thomas Bailey cried in his mind. Clearly, the man had been too careless. He'd forgotten that there was a dangerous demon beside him. Suddenly, Chen Zhao grinned. Everyone could feel the danger in Chen Zhao's smile. They all felt danger for no reason. He was the one in danger, but why was he smiling like this? Bustier also stopped his charge in an instant. This guy was so dangerous. Bustil's beast-like instincts made him give up this impulse. He couldn't get close to him. Bustil took a few steps back. Chen Zhao stepped forward and tore off Kandarin's hair with his legs. Kandarin shrieked. After all, it was very painful to have one's hair torn off. Even a demon was no exception. Chen Zhao broke one of Kandarin's horns and charged at Bustil. Bustil wanted to fly again, but Chen Zhao had already jumped behind him. The demon's horns pierced into his skin. Then Chen Zhao pulled again. Rip! The skin on Bustil's back was torn open. Chapter 12-15. Bustil could feel what Chen Zhao was going to do. In fact, everyone saw it. Chen Zhao was going to skin Bustil. Blood splashed all over Chen Zhao's body. Bustil's blood burned Chen Zhao's body with a scorching heat. But Chen Zhao didn't care, as if he couldn't feel it. Bustil fell to the ground and rolled around, rubbing against Chen Zhao. He wanted to rub Chen Zhao off his back. But the exposed wounds touched the ground, making him feel even more pain. Chen Zhao pulled with all his might and jumped off Bustel's back. Half of Bustel's skin was peeled off. Everyone stared at Chen Zhao, dumbfounded. By now, Bustel was on the verge of death. But the brutality didn't stop. Chen Zhao was still holding Candelen's horn and skinning Bustel. From the looks of it, Chen Zhao looked more like a cruel demon. Grove, what do you think about putting this skin in the front hall of the association? Lit Grove's smile was forced. Great, teacher. That's a great idea. He didn't dare to say if it was too terrifying. No matter how terrifying it was, it couldn't be as terrifying as Chen Zhao, right? Lit Grove's fear of Chen Zhao had already seeped into his bones. One had to admit that Bustel had a tenacious life force. Even though his entire skin had been peeled off, he still didn't die. Chen Zhao patted the flames on his body. The dark lava started corroding his body. It wasn't like when the mother's body was corroded and turned black. After Bustel's body was corroded, it became mainly black. There were also red patterns. Finally, Bustel completely became Chen Zhao's puppet. His gaze wasn't so cruel anymore. There was only emotionless coldness. But Bustel's body was so big that Chen Zhao's dark lava had been used up quite a bit. Dark lava had always been one of Chen Zhao's trump cards, so he wasn't willing to use it to corrode useless enemies. For example, the larger Deep Abyss demons. In terms of strength, they were stronger than Bustel. But they would also use up more dark lava. So Chen Zhao didn't want to use dark lava to corrode the demon's body. However, although Bustel's strength was inferior to the abyssal demons, he could fly. Furthermore, he wouldn't consume too much darkness lava. Chen Zhao had never given up on the idea of making him his mount. Chen Zhao was still obsessed with flying in the sky. Although he could fly now, he couldn't soar freely. Therefore, finding a mount was a good choice. As for flying on his own, he could take his time. He believed that one day, he would be able to fly even higher. Chen Zhao turned around and saw Lit Grove holding a wrench and flipping Candren to the ground. Teacher, she wants to escape. Well done. Chen Zhao looked at Thomas Bailey. Thomas and Molly's faces were pale. The man in front of him was even more terrifying than a demon. They had witnessed with their own eyes how this man had cruelly killed this demon. It was an appalling act. Are you going to follow me obediently or fight me? Chen Zhao asked. This has nothing to do with her, Thomas Bailey said. She's just a normal person. If you want something, come at me. I don't care who she is to you, Chen Zhao said. Since she's with you, she's not unrelated. I can tell you whatever you want to know. As long as I know, I can tell you. Please let Molly go. Then who are you? And why are these two demons chasing you? I'm also a demon. Thomas Bailey revealed his true appearance. He had become tall and powerful. Chen Zhao and Lit Grove had already seen his true appearance. Because I don't want to continue following the demon army, Thomas Bailey said. They're chasing me as a traitor. I don't want to live the evil life from 1,000 years ago. Demon army? Chen Zhao was surprised. You're a member of Kong Mosa's demon army. You know Kong Mosa? Yes. The host of 1/3 of his soul is in my hands right now. Before the 15th of this month, the demon army will attack my territory. Only then did Thomas Bailey understand why there were so many of his kind. It turned out that they had to deal with such a terrifying enemy. However, no matter how powerful this man was, he was still just one person. He couldn't fight the entire demon army alone. Chen Zhao pointed at Bastier, who had completely become his puppet. Who is this guy? He's one of the 4 commanders, Bostier. Kong Moses Mount. What about the other 3 commanders? How strong are they compared to this guy? Bostil is close to the other 2 commanders. The other 3 commanders are Undying Arrow, Shadow Vanguard Eden, and Doan Tucker. Among them, Doan Tucker is the most terrifying. It is said that he directly received 1/3 of Kang Moses' demonic power. Tell me what magic or battle techniques they're good at. Also, are there any similar strong people in the demon army? Undead Arrow has mastered necromancy. He can awaken the sleeping dead. Shadow Vanguard Eden never appears in front of the enemy. He will always appear behind the enemy. Candlin is Eden's subordinate. Also, Doan Tuck is the most mysterious great commander. No one knows how he fights, but there has never been an enemy he couldn't defeat. Thomas Bailey paused for a moment before continuing. Other than the 4 commanders, there are many other strong demons in the demon army. The 4 commanders were chosen because they were the strongest, but there are many demons who are close to them in strength. When we were transformed into demons, some received more demon power, while some received less. Take me for example. I'm one of the weaker ones. According to Thomas Bailey, there were a lot of demons similar to or close to Bostil. This also showed how terrifying the demon army was. Even Qin Zhao wasn't confident. It was easy for Qin Zhao to kill Bostier. But this didn't mean that Bostier was weak. If there were 10 Bostil attacking Qin Zhao, what if there were 100? Chapter 12:16. You can go, Qin Zhao said. With that, Black and Bustel sank into the dark lava. Then he dragged Candlin into the car and drove away. Thomas Bailey and Molly didn't expect Qin Zhao to leave so easily. When Qin Zhao and Lit Grove brought Bustel's leather back to the headquarters, it caused quite a commotion. Right now, the demon's skin still had a thick aura. Everyone who'd been sound asleep felt the demon's aura and woke up in fright. They thought that there was an enemy invasion. But when they woke up, Qin Zhao was there. They relaxed a little. When they saw the demon's skin on the ground, they more or less knew what was going on. Candlin was also on the ground. Right now, she was like a dead dog. She was probably scared by Qin Zhao's beating or scared out of her wits. Throw her into the dungeon. We'll interrogate her tomorrow. Teacher, I'll watch. Lit Grove felt that this was related to him. After all, he'd caused it, so he was very proactive. He hadn't participated in the association's previous operations. He'd always felt that he didn't really fit in. Now that something had happened, he finally felt that he was a member of the association. Okay, see if you can pry her mouth open. If not, I'll come tomorrow. With that, Qin Zhao returned to the hotel. When he reached the hotel, he washed the blood off his body. Then he hugged Fei Lai and slept soundly. Fei Lai sensed Qin Zhao's return. She murmured, "Did you do bad things again? For world peace, go to sleep." The next morning, Del and Risvar came to disturb them. Even though their family was just experiencing the guests, however, Qin Zhao and Fei Lai wouldn't write their suggestions in their notebook. They'd say it in person. "Chen, can you do me a favor?" Risvar told Qin Zhao his thoughts directly. "I want the nameless wine." Qin Zhao nodded. "What? How much?" "At least 3 bottles per month." "Sure," Qin Zhao answered straightforwardly. "No more. 3 bottles per month." On one hand, he could afford it. On the other hand, it would not steal the limelight from Mara's supermarket. "These 3 bottles of wine will be the room fee. This room will be reserved for our family. We will come and stay here when we have time. Don't let others stay here, okay?" Risvar and Del both laughed. Chen Zhao didn't call this an exchange of benefits. It looked like a fair deal, but they all knew that Chen Zhao had purposely erased their relationship so that they wouldn't feel bad. Chen Zhao was actually returning the favor. Risvar and Dell had both helped him before. There are big and small things they help with. All these things, big and small, added up to feelings. Therefore, Chen Zhao didn't want to negotiate with them. Plus, the room's layout, orientation, interior, and scenery were all top-notch. Chen Zhao really liked it here. Let's talk about our shortcomings here, Risvar said. We've only been here for a day. How can we feel it? If I have to say something, it's that the people here are a little less. After all, it was only a trial operation, and there were only a few experienced guests. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. The door was open and Molly was standing in the doorway. Mr. Dell, Mr. Risvar, these are the suggestions made by the guests today. Please take a look. You management can handle this yourself. Make some changes if it's reasonable. The two of them were the bosses. Actually, they didn't need to decide on the changes. The hotel had a few hundred employees and 20 to 30 management staff. They were paid so that they could be in charge of the main operations. Chen Zhao glanced at Molly. Didn't she leave with her demon husband? Okay, then I won't disturb you anymore. Chen, can you tell us the supplier of your special ingredients? Risvar asked. I really can't, Johnny. If it's possible, I won't be stingy, but I really can't provide it to you. All right. Risvar didn't have much hope either. After all, he'd wanted the supplier when he'd attended the party earlier. Those creatures were almost all hunted by Chen Zhao. It wasn't some farm or hunting team. Risvar had actually guessed the problem with the supply. After all, with his experience, he'd eaten countless delicacies. The ingredients Chen Zhao provided at the private party were definitely top-notch. What were top-notch ingredients? Another meaning of top-notch ingredients was that they were rare. Oh, my brewery should start production in June or July. By then, if your hotel needs beer, you can have my products. It definitely won't disgrace your hotel. You're going to open a brewery. Dell and Risvar were both surprised. They weren't surprised that Chen Zhao knew how to brew beer. After all, Chen Zhao could brew a top-notch wine like the Nameless wine. What surprised them was that Chen Zhao didn't even tell them beforehand. It's just an idea I had last month. Also, I need to save some money for myself. Chen, I won't talk too much about business, but I'll give you a suggestion for business. When you're almost done paying off the loan for your brewery, borrow some more money from the bank. Don't ever finish paying off the bank. Risvar's words were in line with Denver's philosophy. Denver's philosophy was also that they needed to maintain cooperation with banks through loans. Chen Zhao was a Chinese. The Chinese's philosophy was that if you borrowed money, you had to pay it back. It was normal for Americans to borrow money. Families were borrowing from the bank since the birth of a child. Therefore, they felt that borrowing money was normal no matter what they did. But as Chinese, they thought that borrowing money wasn't a good thing. Because it would be a psychological burden. This was a difference in philosophy. Almost 80% of Americans were moonlighters. They had to rely on their next month's salary to survive. 46% of Americans didn't have more than $800 in savings. Actually, Chinese's philosophy of consumption had been changing in recent years. But deep down, Chinese people still felt that saving money was better than borrowing money. In the big picture, Americans' philosophy of consumption in advance was the root of economic prosperity. If everyone kept their money in the bank, then modern commerce would be destroyed. What was the purpose of social welfare? It was also to promote the concept of consumption. In the past, people needed to save money because they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to afford medical treatment if they got sick. But if the country bore a large portion, individuals and families wouldn't need to save so much money. Everyone could take out their money and use it immediately. Of course, it didn't mean that excessive consumption was always good. Americans' ability to resist risks was very weak. A single unemployment could destroy a family. Therefore, no one was right or wrong. Everything was reasonable. Chen Zhao still had his own ideas. In the current business model, when a businessman had money, he wouldn't pay it back. Instead, he would invest it in other areas or expand production, then borrow more money. If he could maintain this expansion method, he would earn more and more money and owe more and more to the bank. But the risk would also increase. If there was a problem in one part of the business model would be destroyed. Moreover, Chen Zhao had no ambition. To Chen Zhao, anything other than practicing medicine was an extra income. Chapter 12-17. In the afternoon, Chen Zhao arrived at the headquarters of the association. Teacher. Hearing that Chen Zhao had arrived, Lit Grove immediately ran out to welcome him. At the same time, he asked for credit. Yes. Did you get any information from the interrogation last night? Teacher, I asked around. Actually, not all the demons in the demon army are willing to participate, Lit Grove said. There are many examples like Thomas Bailey, Lit Grove said. They were all converted from humans to demons, so many of their members are actually human. Chen Zhao wasn't surprised by Lit Grove's words. Even a pure devil still had some humanity in them. No person or demon could obey others unconditionally. Loyalty and betrayal were opposites. Some succumbed to other people's inherent fear, some for money, some because they had something on them, or they had their own goals. If Chen Zhao was sealed one day, he believed that there would be people in the association who would save him. Chen Zhao believed that there would be people in the society who would save him and those who would protect themselves. No one could completely control others forever. So, only half of the demons will participate in the attack on the association, Lit Grove said. This was good news. It reduced the pressure of the attack by half. It was good news for both Chen Zhao and the association. Chen Zhao didn't mention the power to suppress everything. If Chen Zhao had to face 1,000 powerful demons, he would probably have to run too. So, half of them wouldn't participate. At least, it would increase their chances of winning. There's another general in the demon army, Undying Arrow. She's not willing to participate either. Are you sure Candolan is telling the truth? She wants to work with us. Work together. How? Chen Zhao was surprised. She wants the demon core of Shadow Vanguard Eden. She wants to replace Eden. If that's all, it's not enough for me to completely believe her. She said that she knows where Eden and her subordinates are hiding. We can launch an attack on Eden in advance to weaken the strength of the demon army. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. This was a good idea. Weakening the demon army in advance. After thinking for a while, Chen Zhao had an idea. Since Candolan was willing to cooperate, he would cooperate. Whether it was a trap or not, he would go. It would be best if it wasn't a trap. Everyone would benefit from it. If it was a trap, then he would beat him at his own game. Of course, Chen Zhao wouldn't foolishly dive in. What Chen Zhao had to do was to be fully prepared. No one was stupid. Chen Zhao thought that he was smart. He wouldn't treat those demons as fools. Whoever treats who as a fool is the real fool. Just then, Chen Zhao sensed something and raised his head. Chen Zhao saw a small figure standing at the edge of the rooftop of the headquarters. Chen Zhao was shocked. Isn't that Evans? Why did he go up there? Chen Zhao quickly ran to the bottom of the roof. Evans, what are you doing up there? Chen Zhao could go up and carry Evans down right now. However, Chen Zhao didn't do that. In order to ensure Evans' safety, he didn't want to use too extreme methods. Children were very innocent. If Chen Zhao flew up and hugged Evans this time, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Perhaps in Evans's mind, the next time he fell from above, he would appear again. The reason why some TV shows with young content would try to remove content like falling from buildings or playing with fire or water was because they didn't want to mislead children. Children didn't understand these things. They thought that what they saw was right. So, if Evans hadn't fallen, Chen Zhao wouldn't have gone up. Evans lowered his head and looked at the display downstairs. I'm talking to Belle. Who's Belle? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Belle is Belle. Evans pointed outside the rooftop. Uncle, can't you see? Chen Zhao frowned. He didn't see anything. But in that instant, Chen Zhao really felt something appear. But he couldn't see it. Right now, Chen Zhao didn't think that it was Evans's hysteria. He believed that there were some things in the world that others couldn't see. Only a few people could see them. For example, only Chen Zhao could see Blackie. There was also the metal box that had led him to this path in the first place and the keys. Only Chen Zhao could see them. This had nothing to do with power. The strong were strong and the weak were weak. He couldn't see them. Even if Chen Zhao placed the metal box before Beelzebub Zophi, the handsome boy, or Old Turtle, they still couldn't see it. Plus, Chen Zhao had felt it just now, so he believed that Evans had really seen something. It was also possible that that person, or that thing, had used some means to only let Evans see it. Chen Zhao had checked Evans before. He was just a regular kid. He didn't have the potential to become a spiritualist. Therefore, the possibility that he could see something but Chen Zhao couldn't was very low. There was only one possibility. That thing had appeared before Evans on its own. Also, it might not appear in a physical form. It might be a spiritual connection with Evans. In that instant, what Chen Zhao had felt might be a magic connection between this thing and Evans. Chen Zhao started to cover Evans and his surroundings with the small world. He felt something a few meters in front of Evans. Magic power. It wasn't magic power. It was a ball of spiritual power. Chen Zhao tried to communicate with this ball of mental power. But it didn't respond. Or rather, Chen Zhao didn't connect at all. Evans, say goodbye to Belle. Talk to him next time. I'll take you out to play, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao didn't know what the spiritual power connected to Evans was trying to do. But Belle wants me to accompany her too. Then you can come down to play. Don't stand so high. It'll hurt if you fall. Belle, I'm right. Let's go down, Evans said to the air. Not long after, Evans left the rooftop and came down from above. Chen Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. Grove, keep an eye on Evans in the association. Don't let him be alone. Chen Zhao went to Evans's room. He realized that there were many new drawings on Evans's table. Every drawing was horrifying. Just from the contents, Chen Zhao's first impression was that it was evil. Chapter 12:18. Chen Zhao waited until Gaia returned from the set. Chen Zhao told Gaia his guess. You're saying that there's something that you and I can't see approaching Evans? Yes. Chen Zhao nodded. Chen, do you have a solution? Not yet, Chen Zhao said helplessly. The thing isn't physical or spiritual. I can't even touch it. I can only vaguely feel its existence. Gaia fell into deep thought. She believed that if Qin Zhao had a solution, he wouldn't be stingy with helping her. Thankfully, there were many people in the union. There were usually people around and Qin Zhao had orders. Apart from when Evans was sleeping, there would always be someone by his side at all times. When Qin Zhao and Gaia walked into the headquarters, Dongye Tianqi and Gen Qira came over. President, I've already made the weapon you wanted. I'm done too. President, I made it first. I was the one who made it first. Didn't you say it would take 10 days? You're done in half the time. Is it shoddy? Qin Zhao was suspicious of their speed. President, I haven't slept at all these days and haven't left the workshop. Gen Qira looked at Qin Zhao with dark circles under his eyes. Qin Zhao looked at Dongye Tianqi. His eyes were also lifeless. In the past few days, the two of them had forged with all their might. They hadn't slept at all. Where's the weapon? Let me see. Both of them ran back to their workshops. Even when they ran, they didn't give an inch and bumped into each other. A few minutes later, the two of them came to Qin Zhao with a large pile of swords. President, look at the weapon I made for you first. Look at mine first. What's the rush? Are you in a rush to reincarnate? Qin Zhao said in annoyance. Dongye Tianqi, if you bring another pile of katanas, don't blame me for getting angry. Of course not. Dongye Tianqi had learned his lesson. Not to mention whether he still held to his previous viewpoint, if he continued to make katanas for Qin Zhao, he would definitely lose the bet. Okay, you first. President, please take a look at this great sword. It's 1.5 meters long, 15 centimeters wide, and weighs 225 kilograms. Isn't it too heavy? Dongye Tianqi asked. No. Qin Zhao lifted the heavy sword and tapped it with his finger. The engravings on the body of the sword were quite beautiful. They were inlaid with gold. When Qin Zhao picked up the heavy sword, he felt that it was sturdy. At the end of the sword, there was a barb guard, and the hilt was wrapped in a layer of beast skin. The main material of this heavy sword is a combination of magic tin gold and stoneware gold. Both are very heavy metals, and the hilt is wrapped in the skin of a magic rhinoceros, which makes it more comfortable to hold without hindering the user's mana, Dongye Tianqi said confidently. Not bad, I quite like this sword. Guild leader, please take a look at the center I've made for you before making your decision. Gen Qira immediately became anxious. If Qin Zhao made his decision now, he would have nothing to do with it. President, this sword of mine weighs 455 kilograms and is 1.75 meters long. It is made of tin and titanium alloy. To be precise, this sword of mine is not a magic weapon. However, it fulfills your requirements of being heavy and durable. Qin Zhao accepted the sword that Gen Qira had made. Indeed, the sword was wider and longer. Although it couldn't be infused with mana, it felt stronger. I like your sword more, Qin Zhao said. Gen Qira was instantly overjoyed. He looked at Dongye Tianqi proudly. Guild leader, my sword is a magic weapon, Dongye Tianqi said unhappily. Hers is just a regular weapon. No matter how you look at it, she's the loser. I've told you my requirements. Heavy, durable, and doesn't require high mana conductivity. If I didn't have the weapon forged by Gen Qira and only have this sword of yours, I might like it. But now that I have this sword of hers, I still prefer the feel of her sword. Dongye Tianqi, I won. Now, you have to call me teacher. Wait, it's not over yet, Dongye Tianqi said immediately. Guild leader, there's still the 12 light swords you requested. Dongye Tianqi placed the 12 light swords before Qin Zhao. Genkira didn't back down either. He placed the 12 light swords that he'd made before Qinzhao. These 12 swords are made of Qingyu Bailing. Although Qingyu Bailing isn't made of metal, it has been soaked in the blood of 9 different magical creatures. Not only is it stronger than normal metal, but it also has a strong mana conductivity. At the same time, it's also very light. Each sword weighs less than 5 kilograms, Dongye Tianqi said. That's right. My work is made of spirit iron. It also has strong mana conductivity. The sword weighs 7 kilograms. Chen Zhao first tried Dongye Tianqi's light sword. As he'd said, it was very light and had excellent mana conductivity. Then he tried Genkira's light sword. The effect was not bad, but it wasn't as good as Dongye Tianqi's. Both mana conductivity and weight couldn't compare to Dongye Tianqi's weapon. Let's see whose is harder. Chen Zhao each took a light sword and knocked it against each other. In the collision of metal and metal, a corner of Genkira's light sword flew off, while Dongye Tianqi's weapon was unharmed. In this round, Chen Zhao used the most direct way to compete, so Genkira lost wholeheartedly. This light sword is Dongye Tianqi's victory. Guild leader, does that mean I won? Dongye Tianqi was overjoyed. Why did you win? We each won 1 round. It should be a tie, Genkira corrected immediately. I have 12 swords, but you only have 1. Of course I win in terms of numbers. One of my swords weighs more than 12 of your swords. In that case, I should be the one to win. Neither gave in. Neither was willing to give in. This is my first time trying a heavy sword, and I misunderstood the guild leader's needs. I won't lose to you next time. A loss is a loss. Why find so many excuses? Alright, stop arguing. Both of you are in a tie, so don't be unhappy. If you can completely crush your opponent, then show me your strength. What's the point of arguing now? Although both of your weapons are good, they haven't completely met my requirements. Dongye Tianqi's 12 light swords and Genkira's heavy sword will be mine. Whoever can create a sword that meets my requirements first will be the final winner. Guild leader, does my heavy sword still have flaws? It's not heavy enough, and it's not durable enough, Chen Zhao said. My heavy sword isn't durable enough. Chen Zhao wanted to show Genkira how he destroyed her proud weapon. However, it was rare to have a spare weapon. Chen Zhao didn't want to destroy it directly. My fighting habits have determined that this sword of yours can only be used for a few battles. Chapter 12-19. Genkira had always maintained a psychological advantage over Chen Zhao. Maybe it was because she really hadn't seen Chen Zhao fight. Plus, Chen Zhao wasn't here every day and she was always in the workshop, so she didn't know what Chen Zhao was doing. So, she always thought that Chen Zhao was a management type. She felt that the weapons she forged were enough for Chen Zhao. She really didn't understand why Chen Zhao needed better weapons. Both Genkira and Dongye Tianqi were of a higher level. Whether it was the light or heavy swords they forged, they weren't at their highest level. Of course, there were also better materials. With more time and energy, one could definitely forge better weapons. But they didn't think that it was necessary. Chen Zhao didn't know what they were thinking. If he did, he would definitely slap them to death. Chen Zhao took the weapons. As soon as he left, West came over. The two of you, take this ring. This ring will allow you to enter the training tower. What tower of trials? That's the one over there. You can train your combat skills inside. No need, Dongye Tianqi said. I'm busy training my forging skills. I don't need it either. Both of them had their own personalities. They didn't want to give in to each other, especially since neither of them had won this round. They were both angry. On the way back, Chen Zhao saw a familiar figure in the convenience store. Hi, Sharon. Sharon was sitting in front of her car, drinking milk tea. She looked up and saw Chen Zhao greeting her. Chen Zhao got out of the car and also bought a cup of milk tea. He leaned against Sharon's car and chatted with her. Are you on the night shift today? I'm not in charge of traffic anymore, Sharon said. I should congratulate you. You should congratulate yourself. At least I won't catch you breaking the rules anymore. Actually, there were no pure traffic police in America. If a police officer found a traffic violation on the road, they would also take care of it. However, the main managers were police officers like Sharon, who were in charge of traffic control. Of course, if they encountered other types of crimes, they would also take care of it. In particular, if Sharon met Chen Zhao on the road, she might have to take care of him again. Chen Zhao would chat with Sharon every time he met her on the road. By the way, your car is parked in a temporary parking space. Sharon looked at the time. You can't park for more than 15 minutes. You still have 10 minutes. Remind me at the last minute, Chen Zhao said, rolling his eyes. At that moment, another convertible stopped by the roadside. A man got out of the car, holding a bouquet of roses in his hands. Shalon, for you. Saran looked at the man expressionlessly. Inro, I think I made myself very clear last time. Or did you not understand me? Sharon looked at the man impatiently. Chen Zhao watched the show from the side with interest. He wondered if he should help her and act as her temporary boyfriend. Sharon, I really like you. I will use my actions to prove my feelings. No matter what you do, I won't like you. Just give up, Sarah said coldly. I don't ask you to accept me now, but please accept this bouquet of roses. Just then, Chen Zhao walked up and took the roses. This bouquet of roses is very beautiful. I thank you on behalf of Sharon. Inro's expression froze. You are. What do you think our relationship is? Chen Zhao looked at Inro with a smile. We're not a couple, right, Sharon? Inro turned to look at Sharon. Expressionlessly, Sharon looked at Inro. Why not? Why do you like him? How can I not be compared to him? Inro stared at Sharon angrily. You can't compare to him in any way. Sharon sneered at Inro. She had long been annoyed by Inro. Since Chen Zhao was willing to help her, she might as well go with the flow. Fine, Sharon. Even if you have a boyfriend, I don't care. I will use my actions to prove that I'm the most suitable for you. Goodbye. Chen Zhao waved his hand with a smile. Inro's face was livid as he turned to leave. Do you hate him? An idiot, Sharon said. He actually naively thinks that if he pursues me, my father will invest in his company. Chen Zhao was also a bit shocked. American society was different from China. In China, if a son-in-law married into a woman's family and there were no other heirs in the family, the man would gradually take over the management of the woman's family. However, for a family business like America, management would rarely change just because the man married into the family. It was also not like the man could enter management just because he married the heiress of the family. Even if the woman inherited the family business in the future, it had nothing to do with her husband. Moreover, for a marriage like theirs, they would definitely sign a prenuptial agreement before marriage. Even if he really pursues me, Sharon said. My father won't invest $50 million in his company. What's his company's business? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Travel company, Sharon said. Oh, he mostly receives tourists from Southeast Asia, $50 million for a travel company. Is he planning to use dollars to cover the Pacific Ocean? He's just an opportunist. It's about time. I should go. If I don't, you're going to give me a ticket. Chen Zhao stuffed the rose into Sharon's hands. This is for you. Can you be more sincere when you give me a gift next time? Sharon looked at the rose in her hands and then stuffed it into the trash can beside her. Chen Zhao didn't drive for long before he felt a car following him. Chen Zhao looked at the car. Wasn't it Inro's car? Chen Zhao parked the car by the roadside. Inro's car was also parked behind. Inro got out and walked to Chen Zhao's side. Sir, how about we get to know each other? Inro put his hands on Chen Zhao's car door. What do you want? Chen Zhao looked at Inro. It's about Sharon. And? Chen Zhao looked at Inro. You know what Sharon's family does, right? We're already boyfriend and girlfriend. Do you think I wouldn't know? Do you want a lot of money? How much? 5 million. Chen Zhao frowned at Inro. After all, it was only 5 million. Was he really that cheap? Look at my car first, then we can talk about the price. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Chen Zhao and Inro both drove convertibles, but Chen Zhao's was a Porsche 918, while Inro's was less than $100,000. Inro's expression froze. Fine, 10 million. Chapter 12:20. Inro narrowed his eyes at Chen Zhao. You have the same idea, right? Of course. Why would I be with Sharon if I didn't? She's bad-tempered and hard to please. If I have money, I'd rather find someone gentle and caring. Chen Zhao didn't feel any guilt when he said such shameless words. Inro understood Chen Zhao's words very well. He treated Chen Zhao as someone in the same industry. In other words, they were the so-called professional gigolos. However, Inro wasn't a normal gigolo. Inro didn't do business for 10 years, but once he did, he could eat for 10 years. He'd been looking for Sharon for a long time this time. However, Chen Zhao was happy about Inro's misunderstanding. Finally, someone recognized his looks and thought that he had the right to be a gigolo. It wasn't easy. Did you rent this car? No, I got it from the rich woman I tricked last time, Chen Zhao said. Where's that rich woman? I worked with someone to make her bankrupt and get tens of millions of dollars. Inro gasped. He didn't expect that Chen Zhao wasn't only a kindred spirit, but also had methods that weren't weaker than his. At the same time, he believed that he'd found the right person. It's not easy to get money from Sharon's father. He's famous for being stingy. What's your original plan? Inro asked. I'll get her first and then find a piece of land. Then, I'll tell Sharon that we don't have enough money to buy the land. She'll pay for it and then I'll transfer it from left to right. Then how are you going to get out? Inro asked. Even a married couple had to pay debts. Plus, the court wouldn't support the man for such a huge transfer. That's easy, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. Just mortgage the land to Sharon's family. That's too difficult, Inro said. If you cooperate with me, I can definitely make more money for you. It'll be easier too. What's your plan? Chen Zhao asked. I have a shell company. Try to convince Sharon to invest in my company and then make it bankrupt in 3 months. The money in the company can be transferred to an overseas account. It's absolutely safe and fast. She can't get the money back even if she wants to. I'll think about it, Chen Zhao said. In fact, Inro's method was even cruder and less reliable than Chen Zhao's. To put it bluntly, he was using feelings to swindle people. Shell companies could deceive ordinary people, but could they deceive a billionaire? This was obviously impossible. To be able to become a billionaire, who was a fool? Any random commercial detective could turn Inro's background upside down. Even Chen Zhao's investment of 30 million had to be evaluated multiple times. He had to find experts and banks for multiple reviews. Why would the investors invest in a shell company? Give me a contact number so that we can contact and discuss, Inro said. Chen Zhao gave him a number, but it wasn't Chen Zhao's number. It was West's. Chen Zhao didn't want him to disturb his phone. If Inro found out that he had been tricked and spread his phone number, he might be harassed by him. So he gave West's number to Inro. At that time, even if they wanted to harass him, it would be West, not him. This is my assistant's number, Chen Zhao said. Inro increasingly felt that Chen Zhao wasn't simple. He actually had a personal assistant. No wonder he could trick rich women out of their money. He tricked a few women too, but the most he got was a few $100,000. After Chen Zhao left, he sent the recording to Sharon. Not long after, Sharon called him. Chen, what's going on? That Inro just found me again. He wants to work with me to cheat your father of his money. This * shoal. I won't let him go. Actually, Sharon didn't need Chen Zhao's reminder. She already knew Inro's background. But with this kind of ugly and naked evidence in front of him, his mentality changed. Sharon originally didn't want to talk to Inro. But now, this recording completely ignited Sharon's anger. Do you need me to provide a gun? Chen Zhao teased. It's not convenient for you to use your gun. After a moment of silence, Sharon said, I'll give you $50,000. Help me teach this * shoal a lesson. How about that? $50,000. She was too cheap. That's against the law. You're a cop. Chen Zhao didn't want to have too much to do with Inro. With his relationship with Sharon, reminding her was already very kind of him. He didn't have to help her teach Inro a lesson. Moreover, Sharon's father should be capable enough. He didn't even have to do it himself. If it was a good friend of his, like Steven or Dell, it would be a waste of time. If they met such a scammer, he would help them teach the scammer a lesson. But he and Sharon definitely weren't good friends. Alright, I'm not asking you to kill anyone. Whatever. If he finds me again, I'll think of a way to teach him a lesson, Chen Zhao said. Chen Zhao had too many ways to teach scammers a lesson. It didn't matter if it was the underworld or the legal world. Moreover, such people didn't deserve sympathy. He definitely tricked many people. Most of them were women. Even if he killed him, he would be helping the people. Of course, the prerequisite was that Inro came to him. Chen Zhao's job scope didn't include helping the people. After returning to the hotel, Chen Zhao met Molly in the lobby. Seeing Chen Zhao walk in, Molly immediately walked up. Mr. Chen, can we talk? About what? About my husband. Is there a problem? Bailey hopes to get your protection. He's a demon and I'm a spiritualist. In terms of status, we're natural enemies. I've already shown my kindness by not killing him, but now you want me to protect him. That's not appropriate. To be frank, he wasn't related to Thomas Bailey at all. Why should he protect him? Bailey said he knows Don Tucker's weakness. He told me yesterday that he didn't even know Don Tucker's abilities, but now he's telling me that he knows Don Tucker's weakness. Just this is enough reason for me to kill him, Chen Zhao said, narrowing his eyes. He's not lying, Molly quickly said. Molly quickly said, there's something in the Norton Simon Museum that can restrain Don Tucker. Oh. Norton Simon Museum. What's that? You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.